everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Oh my goodness. Hello, and welcome to Kiri Magic, to Malinore, to On the Ryland, and Trans Salamander. Hello, Catherine, lovely to have you here as always. Hello, Ink Corvid, and Gold Madoka, and Prince Infidel, Nixian Gaming, Orkmum, hey Orkmum, always lovely to have you here. Hello, Weirdo of Oz, and Leofi TV, and this dungeon's sub-boss, Grongigus Wrath, and Nico, and Inez Red. Hello, welcome everyone to the stream. It's another liberal slop stream. It's time for some more liberal slop. It's time to get sloppy. How's everybody doing? You having a nice day or having a nice week? Sorry I haven't streamed so far this month. But as ever, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using Command Tip. It's been a bit of a weird month so far. I'm streaming now because I need to get cash in, so especially if you want to support the stream, donate directly using Command Tip. I'd really appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a weird one. We've been working on the climate video pretty much non-stop because it is so nearly done. The world is not ending, so nearly done. Yeah, it's very, very nearly done, and then on Sunday I was going to go for a climb up at the place we usually have the trans climbing group, and we were on our way there, and a guy started yelling at me in the street. First he said, "Fucking hell, are you a man or a woman?" And then proceeded to treat me in a way that men like that only treat women. Various ways, in fact. For example, commenting on my nipples. Yeah, you know, stuff like that. Stuff to that effect. It was really distressing. It went on for about 10 minutes. His friend, at one point, or possibly son, I'm guessing. There was an older guy, a younger guy, and a little kid. Seemed maybe like a son, father and grandfather situation. Anyway, the younger guy, the dad, I'm assuming, I said to the older guy, "You're setting a bad example to that kid, you know, because you're being incredibly rude and sexually harassing women and all of this." And the younger guy just blew up, and he started screaming at me, and he clearly wanted to attack me. It was quite horrible, quite scary. But I'm around friends, and I've been around friends the last few days. Done some fun stuff with pals, so you know it's not all bad. But certainly that was hard, and it's put back the progress on the video by at least 3 days. Hopefully not more, but you know, we take breaks when we plan to. Otherwise, we take breaks when we have to. I do have planned breaks put in to balance my mental health well. Just started playing with this worry stone, and I just remembered that I was sent this by Cradle Community after the thing happened with the Daily Mail. What a year it's been. Anyway, thank you so much, Orkmom, who tipped £5 and said emotional support $5. And Barbie, oh my goodness, has tipped £10 and says Barbie and Ken says trans rights. I believe they do. Love to get support $1 to another. Thank you so much for that. Will Oppenheimer tip? That's my question. And can Oppenheimer possibly bring more powerful, more firepower to this than Barbie? I'm guessing no, Barbie is infinitely powerful. If you have even the slightest familiarity with Barbie lore, you will know that she is thousands of times stronger than the atomic bomb. Anyway, yeah, it put things back a few days. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I did not work. Although yesterday morning I asked Nat to tell me her life story, which was really nice. I obviously know my wife's life story already. Like I could tell it to someone else fairly well, but I just find it to be a nice thing to do sometimes when you love someone, to get them to tell you in their own words the story of them so far.
Did I bring any surprises?
Well, I liked hearing about your teacher you have a crush on. She started talking about this teacher and started describing her by like her hair and what she would wear and stuff. And then later I was like, thanks for telling me about that teacher you had a crush on. And she was like, oh, I don't know if I had a... And I'm like, sure. Sure. Anyway, so that was a nice chill thing. And then we had climbing group again yesterday. So, you know, as I say, plenty of nice things. Can Bobby beat Goku? Jesus, what a ridiculous question. Okay, let's just go quickly over here. This is a solved question, so let's just deal with this, the easiest form of liberal slop, anti-Barbie propaganda. Let's just deal with this right at the start of the stream. Oh, why is my Twitter going so slow? Oh, I think my whole PC is actually going really slow. Huh. Thank you so much, Cumberland Bandersnatch, for subscribing. Hi, Parasocial Mom. Aww. There have also been a bunch of other subscriptions. I didn't read them out. Jenny Azoth, thank you so much, and for gifting a sub to Unfriendly Bat, and for subscribing as well, nearly 12 months. Danjo Rescue, okay. Thasmadar subscribed with Prime. Lokan Nagel resubscribed. Prince Infidel and On the Ryland all subscribed. Lokan says, Laura says, hi, Sophie. So, hi, Laura. Thanks, Lokan. And Orkmum just subscribed. Thank you so much, Orkmum. Barbie can do anything. It's true. This is what I'm saying. Hang on a second. I'll sort this for you. Barbie Goku. There's a great thread about this from my friend Mia. What the hell is her? Hang on a second. If I search, ice must be destroyed. Destroyed Barbie. Then I can probably go. The actual problem with Moby Barbie is that Barbie would simply annihilate the whale. Yeah, this is the shit she's been on for a little while now. Barbie is infinitely powerful. But this is actually really funny. Moby Barbie is the name they've given to this book with a fishtail on it, which is clearly meant to be a reference to Moby Dick. But the obvious pun here is Barbie Dick. I'm just saying. Greta Gerwig is withholding the Barbie Dick. Anyway, okay, here we go. Mia's thread. Oh no. Having learned more about Barbie, I think she actually beats Goku. This is after learning that she was in Desert Storm. Anyway, so assuming her magic wand doesn't just insta-kill him, which is a big if, she's outclassed in terms of she's outclassed in terms of raw power, but she has a diary that's a death note, at which point it's a speed contest. Goku can teleport, but that doesn't help much because he still has to hit her after the teleport, and Barbie has a time stop, though it's a bit weird because she grabs the earth and stops it from turning. She can also time travel by spinning the earth backwards, but I think it's too slow. So it comes down to pure speed, and Barbie has a feat that clocks 1.4 quintillion times the speed of light, and I don't think Goku is that fast. He's very fast, but even it's similar speed, even with teleportation, he has to kill her before she writes Goku die in her journal, and I really don't think he's fast enough. Also, her wand can take people's magic away, but it's unclear to me what effect that would have on Goku, so I'm disregarding it, but she has a lot of win conditions. Anyway, I've been driving completely insane by a full week of not getting to normal sleep, so here you go. After much consideration, I think she loses to SpongeBob, who is just orders upon orders of magnitude faster and is also universe level, which should let him be fast enough to just blitz her. There you go. Now you know. Mia is a fan of yours, by the way, Sophie. I am aware because we chat and she has had me on It Could Happen Here a couple of times to talk about how normal Britain is. So thank you for telling me, but also I do know. If you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using Command Tip. Especially, please donate directly using Command Tip. I'm trying to get some cash to get through the next few days to release the big video so we can live. Okay, let's get on to the liberal slop. That's the most important next step now that we've solved the most important question. Barbie, Comsters and Dumpsters Goku, and it's not even close. So, I have some liberal slop for you all. Shall we begin with Washington Post opinions? I think we're going to begin with some Washington Post opinions. Opinion: higher wages may increase homelessness, by Megan McArdle. Awesome. West Hollywood, home to the legendary Sunset Strip, now has a new claim to fame. It has the highest minimum wage in America. At the beginning of July, the city's wage floor rose to $19.08 an hour, surpassing even Los Angeles, woo, and San Francisco. Ah! The predictable arguments followed. Oh, thank you, Vaudrella, for the £16.20. Oh, golly gee, what a weird number will come out of this currency conversion. Oh, no, what weird number will come out of this currency? It was £16.20. I don't know if that is anything. Liberal sloppy toppy. Toppy here means topic? Good lord. Wow. Thank you so much, Vaught. I really appreciate that. Okay, let's get back to Megan McArdle saying that higher minimum wages cause homelessness. Just incredible stuff that is allowed to be published in liberal publications. Just wild. Okay, the predictable arguments followed in the hallowed tradition of America's minimum wage wars. America's minimum wage wars. I don't even disagree with that phrase, actually. That's just so fucking depressing. Employers said they couldn't afford the higher payroll costs and would be forced to cut back on staff. If we go out of business, that means workers will lose their jobs too, restaurant owner Lucian Tudor told the Los Angeles Times. Progressives retorted that thanks to the minimum wage, vulnerable workers are finally able to enjoy a semi-decent standard of living. Both these arguments can be true, of course. Even if employers pay their payrolls by firing some folks, the workers who get to keep their jobs may be better off. Balancing the interests of the two groups is a tricky business, especially because there's no agreement on even the basic question of how many jobs are lost to the minimum wage. How many jobs are lost to the minimum wage? Whoo! Ah! Okay. Wow! What a set of words. Just what a series of words that you're able to, like... You know what's great about language is that you can just, like, pull together disparate words and you can put them into an order. And when you've done that, it can just wreak untold psychic damage upon someone thousands of miles away. Isn't that amazing? How many jobs are lost to the minimum wage? Won't anyone think of the poor, innocent jobs? All those jobs have been lost now, like jobs in the wage. Supporters of higher minimums can point to studies that seem to show only small effects or even positive effects. Pah, they're just studies, don't worry about it. Opponents have their own studies showing significant job loss. As well as the common sense observation that when the price of almost anything goes up, people will consume less of it. Interesting. I wonder if the what's it called? I'm a Virgo, Crisis of Capitalism explainer is up. Is this it? Yeah, this is probably it. This is gonna get my stream copyright claim, but that's okay.
Thank you for being here with me.
What did you expect? Where else am I gonna be?
Where your ass been? Jones, this can't happen, right? I mean, he's human. They can't just need somebody to, like, die. It doesn't make sense.
Someone needs to get up there now.
Jones.
I'm gonna answer you up there. My boy Cootie right here just asked how the could something like this happen? Exactly. This wasn't an accident. It's no accident. When Crown turns poor people away to die just so they make a profit. And the same forces that kill scat are trying to get us too. Let me break it down a little bit. There is a phenomenon called the crisis of capitalism. Under capitalism, businesses combine labor and materials to create goods or services for sale. Each year, they must make more money than the last to compete or else be crushed by competitors. They do this by lowering wages and raising prices. Now those workers have less money to buy the products with and the company loses money. How do they fix that situation? By again lowering wages and raising prices. It's a downward spiral during which we have large numbers of people who can't afford many of the goods that the economic system produces. Private HMO-run hospitals like Crown are no different. Crown is nothing but a network of boxes with the purpose of sending cash to its owners. To get cash out of those boxes, they sell help as their product. We get sold the idea that hospitals are there with the primary purpose of helping people. But the crisis of capitalism compels them to raise their prices while people's overall wages are lowered. So people can't afford it and get turned away. In cases like scats, they die. It's why our developers and real estate companies have rents go up as wages go down, pushing people into the street. It's why our power company shuts our lights off regularly instead of buying from neighboring regions or spending money on upgrades. The power company, the real estate developers, and Crown have the same group of owners who are also investors in much of the industry in the Bay Area. Our power comes from the fact that we are the ones that create that profit. All of these problems all have the same immediate solution. We shut everything down and force their hands. It's all connected, and that's how we have to fight it. We give them a choice. Cede to our demands and make less profit, or we shut you down and you make no profit.
Cool. So that's from Boots Riley's new show on Amazon Prime called I'm a Virgo. I'm a Virgo. It's good as fuck. And it has a few different people who have like superpowers in it. And Jones's superpower is she's bread tube. So it's really cool. Anyway, I just wanted to quickly play that back because the thing here, right? This line that we just got to, right? Where were we? The price of anything goes up, people will consume less of it, right? Megan McArdle is making the argument that businesses will in fact companies will in fact go out of business if the minimum wage goes up because they'll have to pay their employees more, so they'll have to raise their prices. I'm a Virgo with the power of bread tube? Impossible. No one Virgo should have all that power. The irony of Amazon Prime producing this show for profit, Lamau. Yeah, I know, it's pretty wild, but I mean, take the money and run. Boots Riley, get that bag. Full support, to be honest. Yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, one thing that I want to come back to again and again in liberal slop streams is the confounding power of economics. Lenin called The Economist a magazine that exists to basically shill for the interests of millionaires. I don't think there were billionaires at the time, but, you know, the interests of the ultra wealthy was the point. And I've commented on again and again, and I know we're talking about the Washington Post right now, but I'll get to it. We've commented again and again how The Economist doesn't include any author names on its articles because it wants everything that it says to come from The Economist. And the point of it coming from The Economist is that it's a scientific perspective. It must be correct because The Economist is saying it. So it must be based in economics, right? The confounding power of economics is a massive central feature of liberal slop because economies are methods to organize ecologies, right? There are resources that human beings take from nature, like any animal, to ensure survival and the other things that we like and enjoy. And we use economies to organize the way that those resources reach the people. The way that we're currently organizing our economy is obviously to do so in a way that squeezes most people so that they're just barely surviving, lets a ton of people die, and lets an absolutely minuscule number of people have more conceivable resources, freedom, agency, and power than any other human beings at any point in history. And that's fucked, right? That's obviously fucked. That's deeply, deeply, deeply fucked. But if we are talking about changing economics on a level of we want to change the purpose of the economy, right? Because if economies are methods of organizing ecologies, and we want to change the nature of the economy so that it just more efficiently brings resources from the world around us to people in forms that people can enjoy, then sure, right? That should be a straightforward discussion. But when we're bogged down into this, into the realist discussion, right, of like what is, and therefore what tiny policy changes should be made to tip a balance ever so slightly this way or that, because we understand that economics is this incredibly delicate machine that needs to be finely oiled and needs to be adjusted only ever so slightly, then we're having an absolutely infuriating and, as I say, confounding conversation, one that is sure to leave us all breathless and blue-faced, okay? So the purpose of having an article as fucking blatantly asinine sounding as one titled "Higher Minimum Wages May Increase Homelessness," right? Which is an opinion that should be thrown out pretty much immediately. As she's described with her own words, she doesn't have any data to prove that the jobs are actually lost by people having a minimum wage or raising the minimum wage. And part of the reason that she doesn't have that is that a fundamental organizing principle of the economy that we use, capitalism, is that there should always be a number of unemployed people and a sufficient number of unemployed people to force people into the labor market, to force them to perform labor that they would not otherwise perform for wages that they would not otherwise accept. That's a nature of market capitalism on its most fundamental level, right? And so for her to say that people are losing jobs because they raise the minimum wage, it's just disingenuous fucking nonsense. But she can't even prove this claim because Meghan McArdle, I assume her fucking nope. I don't even have the energy to piece together a dig. She's a dumb lady. She's got no good brain there. That's bad thinking she's done, and she published it in the Washington Post. How sad. But it should just be thrown out immediately, and yet we're expected to give it some kind of credence. And then when we go and look in at it, right, someone who maybe is curious about economics and have seen flaws in what liberals are constantly trying to peddle as sensible and common sense and cohesive and cogent, we come to look at this and we see her saying the common sense observation that when the price of almost anything goes up, people will consume less of it. And we start to be sympathetic to her ridiculous right-wing libertarian anti-human politics. And that's the way that liberal slop codifies and allows outside perspectives, and I'm talking minorly outside perspectives, while precluding the possibility of anything radical, because anything radical would just completely demolish this entire conversation. It would just be wow, this is fucking myopic. You're talking about this much, and we need to change this much in order to do anything at all. So just fuck off. It's this hyper focus on is the place with the most minimum wage the place with the most homelessness? Let's go have a read. Okay then. I won't rehash these arguments any further. You've probably heard them and already formed a strong opinion. Instead, I want to introduce a new argument, that higher minimum wages may be contributing to homelessness, a problem that is, of course, particularly bad in California. This suggestion comes from Seth J. Hill, a professor of political science at the University of California, San Diego, who recently published a striking analysis of cities that raised their minimum wages between 2006 and 2019. He found that in these cities, homelessness grew by double-digit percentage points. The effect was larger for cities with bigger minimum wage increases, and it also appeared to get stronger over time. I'll confess, I was doubtful as I started reading this paper. For one thing, I already assume that minimum wage hikes cause significant unemployment, and I try to bring extra skepticism to research that flatters my opinions. For another, this paper is a preprint, not yet peer-reviewed. Holy fuck! I'm sorry. Holy fuck. Okay. For a third, homelessness seems to be spiking despite an incredibly tight labor market. And finally, I've been convinced by policy analysts who argue that the main driver of homelessness is the refusal of liberal cities to build enough housing. Oh, goodness gracious me. But when I actually finished the paper, the study seemed solid. Moreover, Hill's conclusions are plausibly modest. After all, the vulnerable people who are most likely to end up homeless, those with substance abuse or mental health problems, unstable family situations, and so forth, are probably also the most likely to be let go when employers trim payrolls. And this effect doesn't have to be large to have a big impact on homelessness, because the number of homeless people is thankfully small relative to the size of the labor market. Yeah, a couple of people in chat. This dungeon sub-boss is saying bullshit. Half the housing where I live is empty. Sundry Clown Car is saying because the houses cost too much, Megan, catch up. Yeah, absolutely. Megan McArdle is a fucking ghoul, and this is another laughably dogshit opinion piece. I'm sure some very clever and witty podcasters can call her a bitch and a cunt and a snake and stuff. It'll be wonderful. But the important thing I think to observe here, and this is why I brought up the I Am a Virgo clip, is that there is a problem here that is at the fundamental root of capitalism. It is the initial building block of the economic system we use, and this issue would seem to need to talk entirely around it in order to maintain any semblance of having anything sensible to say. There are currently 18.5 million people employed in the state of California and an estimated 171,521 homeless. A minimum wage increase that saw 42,000, that was wishful thinking, 42,000 California workers lose jobs or hours would barely register in the noisy employment statistics. But if the people who lost wages also lost their housing, the number of homeless people would increase by about 25%. And this could conceivably happen even in a very strong labor market if the marginal workers who end up displaced simply cannot generate more than $16 or $19 in hourly value for their employers. If the marginal workers who end up displaced simply cannot generate more than $16 or $19 in hourly value for their employers. I'm really trying to stick to the point of the liberal analysis, of the liberal SLOP analysis, to trying to keep the class on track. But then she just says stuff that is just so deeply fucking ghoulish sometimes that it's what the fuck? What the fuck actually? What the fuck actually? Ah, jeez. Macrothumia, first time in chat, and has come in with a strong first time chat message. Does Sophie play fighting games? What an interesting question. Nevertheless, I still have to square this result with my strong assumption that homelessness is mostly about an inadequate supply of housing, not the labor market. If there were more houses, they would simply buy them, like I would. I would simply buy a house if there was a house for sale. Nevertheless, I have to square this. Sorry, but one way to think about it is that a state with a decent economy like New York or California can probably get away with a certain number of costly policy mistakes that tend to increase the rate of homelessness. They just can't afford all of them at once without ending up with a crisis. Another, more depressing way to think about it is that these policies probably tend to feed on one another. In cities that make it hard to build, housing prices will soar, and politicians will be under pressure to raise wages to match. Unfortunately, this doesn't fix the problem because a housing market with too little supply is just a high-stakes game of musical chairs. All that those well-meaning politicians can do is alter who gets left out when the music stops. When it comes to higher minimum wages, the answer may well be that the workers so vulnerable and close to the edge that they can't even afford to leave. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, Megan. One thing here is, let's check out this homeless statistic. Where is this from? Annual Homeless Report to Congress. So it's from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Okay. Is there an ability to search this? Let's just find her number, actually. 171521. Okay. Okay. More than half of all people experiencing homelessness in the country were in 4 states. California, 30% or 1,700. Okay. Huh. I'm not trying to nitpick here. I'm curious where she gets her numbers from. Housing and urban development stats are almost always undercounting, by the way. You know, I'm aware. I mean, that was the thing I was going to say about it in the first place, was just that they're always trying to underplay how many homeless people there are by not counting people who are sofa surfing or people who are in some kind of homeless program or whatever, and only counting the most extreme cases, people in tents or sleeping rough. But I don't know that I was going to link back to a particular point, so I'm probably just gonna call it on this article. Like I say, I just think this whole thing of giving space to someone with the most apparently dumb opinion you could possibly think, higher minimum wages may increase homelessness. It is for a purpose, and that purpose is to, like I say, create the illusion of plurality, right? The illusion of there being a big open discussion between people with lots of different viewpoints. Wow, did you know? Thinking that the raising the minimum wage causes homelessness is another valid viewpoint now. There are so many of those nowadays. Back in my days, there only used to be 2. You either were a good guy or you loved Hitler, and those were the only 2 viewpoints. And that's how the left wants it to be now. The radical left, they're trying to say everyone's Hitler so they can be the good guys. But we here in the sensible center, we tolerate so many different viewpoints. People who want to lower the minimum wage, people who want to keep the minimum wage the same, people who think that the minimum wage is too high, people who think that minimum wage causes homelessness, people who think that the minimum wage causes COVID, people who think the minimum wage was instituted by the Jews. You know, so many different opinions. So many different opinions. Okay. That was just a little bit of a warm-up one. A little bit of a warm-up article. Before we get to our proper first course. Oh, good. There isn't even a paywall in this one. This is Slavoj Zizek. A lot of people have been discoursing about an article that not a lot of people have read. I am not going to fall into this trap we are going to read the article before I make any remarks about the article. Slavoj Zizek is known for several things. Recent reactionary opinions, misleading and provocative titles, jokes, little snippets, and so on, and so on, and so on. Yeah, I think that's it. So, the title of the article we're about to read is "The Left Must Embrace Law and Order." And like I say, people are aware, Slavoj Zizek has, recently professed, like, anti-woke stances several times over. And, that's something that I think that we could interrogate. I think that that's something that we could... something that we could look into. We could maybe even go and read some of those articles that people were, I think, quite rightfully upset about. But the title of this article is "The Left Must Embrace Law and Order," and on the face of it, that's just, okay, piss off, old man, bye-bye. But we're going to give it a read now, and we'll see what it actually says, and then we'll comment on it. Because this is, while this is the liberal slop stream, this one is an example less of liberal slop and more of someone with, I would say, at least the ability to have respectable, worthwhile opinions that a liberal slop publication has given column space to, what do they call it, column inches, in order to draw more people in to read. So, worth our time to just check out the dealio. Slop comes in all forms. It's true. There are so many kinds of slop these days. Back in my day, you only had two kinds of slop. You had good slop and you had Hitler slop. Okay, we're not redoing this bit. Let's just read it. In France and elsewhere, everyday insecurity hurts the poor much more than the rich. Two events have gripped public attention during this increasingly febrile summer: the failed military mutiny in Russia and the violent protests in France. Although the media has covered both in detail, a feature they share has passed unnoticed. Looting and arson attacks spread through France after police shot dead a 17-year-old boy called Nahel in the... I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, by the way, please let me know. In the Nanterre suburb of Paris on 27th of June. In cities across the country, rioters erected barricades, lit fires, and shot fireworks at police, who responded with tear gas, water cannons, and stun grenades. Events took an even more ominous turn when the police began to act as autonomous agents, threatening to revolt unless President Emmanuel Macron resolved the crisis. The police released a statement that was nothing less than a crack in the edifice of state power. Reacting to the riots, hardliners in the police threatened to act against their own state. The predictable leftist narrative is that the police is racially biased, French egalite is a fiction, young immigrants rebel because they have no future, and the way to solve this crisis is not more police oppression but a radical transformation of French society. Okay, I'm already suspicious of where he's going with this, but we will read on. Anger has been building for years, and Nail's killing was the latest detonation that brought it into the open. Violent protests are a reaction to a problem, not the problem itself. There is some truth to this narrative. When protests broke out in 2005 after the deaths of two teenagers who were electrocuted while being pursued by police, the matrix of prejudices and exclusions that defined the lives of immigrant youth in France was revealed. Yet overhauling society to solve the historic problems of identity, economic exclusion, and colonial injustice is a problematic solution. It assumes a progressive outcome when none seems forthcoming. The protesters' targeting of local buses, for example, so crucial in transporting workers from the low-income suburbs on the edge of Paris, indicates two things. The riots have wrecked the infrastructure that sustains the livelihoods of ordinary people, and the victims of the destruction are the poor, not the rich. Public protests and uprisings can play a positive role if they are sustained by an emancipatory vision, such as the 2013-14 Maidan uprisings in Ukraine and the ongoing Iranian protests triggered by Kurdish women who have refused to wear the burqa. Okay. Even the threat of violent action is sometimes necessary for political resolution. Two historic victories, canonized by the liberal commentariat, the rise to power of the African National Congress in South Africa and the U.S. civil rights protests led by MLK, were only possible because they were backed by the prospect of violence by the radical wing of the ANC and more militant black Americans. The negotiations over ending apartheid in South Africa and abolishing racial segregation in the U.S. succeeded because of these threats. Yet this is not the situation in France today. Interesting. Okay. See, this is what I mean about it not quite being liberal slop, because we don't usually find ourselves actually directly arguing with the slop. I mean, we do, but that's a distraction, and this is what we're always trying to avoid. We're always trying to say, wait, let's not argue with the slop. Let's look at the purpose of the slop and see what it's trying to achieve here, and then understand how the propaganda model works. In Zizek's case, I think that his point is worth discussing, maybe even debating. Anyway, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or share or donate directly using Command Tip. I would really appreciate if you donated directly using Command Tip. I need money to live. Okay. Yet this is not the situation in France today, where violent rebellion is unlikely to end with any kind of progressive settlement for the wretched of the earth. If law and order are not promptly restored, the final outcome may well be the election of Marine Le Pen, the leader of the hard-right National Rally Party, as the new president. The anti-immigration nationalists are in power in Sweden, Norway, and Italy. Why not France? Macron has presented himself as a technocrat with no firm political stance, but a position that was once seen as a strength now looks like a fatal weakness. The Spider Dork first time chat says, I just got a Mission Impossible trailer, but the stream audio didn't cut, so the trailer played while Sophie was talking over it about the purpose of slop. Nice. Well, I assume that's better than the Mission Impossible audio, to be honest. But I am biased. In Russia, it was difficult to miss the comic nature of Evgeny Prigozhin's march on Moscow. It was over within 36 hours after the Kremlin offered him a deal. Prigozhin has avoided a legal trial, but has been forced to withdraw his mercenaries from Ukraine and move to Belarus. We don't know enough to say what really happened. Was his march meant as a full-scale attack to occupy Moscow, or was it an empty threat, a gesture not meant to be realized, as Prigozhin himself has suggested? The entire episode may also have been a brute form of business negotiation, an attempt to prevent the passing of a law which stipulated that irregular forces such as the Wagner Group had to fall under the command of the regular armed forces. Whether it was an attempted coup or a business negotiation by mutiny, the event bears witness to the reality that Russia is becoming a failed state, a state that has to treat uncontrolled military gangs as partners in a grubby deal. The events in France and Russia are part of a trend in Europe towards instability, crisis, and disorder. Today, failed states are not only in the global south, from Somalia to Pakistan to South Africa. If we measure a failed state by the crack-up of state power, as well as the heightened atmosphere of ideological civil war, deadlocked assemblies, and the growing insecurities of public spaces, then Russia, France, the UK, and even the US should also be understood in similar terms. Cool. Co-signing this one from the boy, actually. Trying not to hand it to him too hard, but also you gotta hand it to him. On 19th of June 2022, Texas Republicans approved measures declaring that President Joe Biden was not legitimately elected and rebuked the Republican Senator John Cornyn. Cornyn? Do we know this? Do we know how this is said? Anyway. Cornyn, anyway. For taking part in bipartisan talks about gun control. They also voted on a platform that declared homosexuality an abnormal lifestyle choice and called for Texas school children to learn about the humanity of the preborn child. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Yeah, John Corncob, that's right. Thanks, Jenny. It's pretty wild to me to have my guy having just published this shitty article about Tavistock, right? Where he gives into a ton of shitty anti-trans talking points about transing kids, for him to then talk about the Texas GOP platform, and he talks about the extreme example of being intolerant to homosexuals, but there's just this noticeable absence of noticing that the worst people in the world agree with the people who he's trying to say, you know, we should maybe listen to. Kind of, I don't know, kind of strange. Call for Texas school children to learn about the humanity of the preborn child. The first measure declaring that Biden's election was invalid is a clear move towards a cold civil war in the US, the delegitimization of the political order. In France, talk of a coming civil war is de rigueur on the hard right. Speaking on French radio on 30th of June, the hard right politician polemicist Eric Zemmour described the riots as the beginnings of a civil war, an ethnic war. In this general situation, the left must assume the slogan of law and order as its own. Okay. Now we get to the real takes. Okay. I think I would like to pause at this moment. Are we halfway through? We're over halfway. We're a little over halfway. I'd like to pause at this moment to discuss, before we get into his assuredly wild takes, right? To talk a little bit about riots. If you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or share or donate directly using Command Tip. I'd really appreciate that. I need money to live. Thank you. Ownership in the law is considered on three pillars: usus, abusus, and fructus. Usus is the right to use. For example, we own our flat in the sense that we use it to live in. Right, but we don't own it in the sense that we could use it to make money off it. That would be fructus, right? So our landlord doesn't sanction us operating a location-based business out of it, right? Obviously, like, I am doing work right now, but working from home and operating a business out of it, like a shop, are not the same thing. And abusus, right, which is the right to alter. Deform or destroy. Okay, if we completely owned, and that's actually a crucial difference between the way that a lot of people own houses, land, and property, and the way that people own lots of other stuff. Right? If you own, say, a cup, no one's really going to argue with your right to just smash it to bits and then chuck the bits in the bin. Unless you don't, supposing you don't harm anybody. But the thing about long and short hold lease is that it's still long term and belongs to what, the council, or is it the king? Nat's pulling this face. No idea.
There's often like different levels of ancientness of leases. So sometimes there's like a council one that's older, and then there's something else that's older than that.
Yeah, but my point is that people aren't necessarily people who are the owners of properties aren't actually necessarily able to just like burn the house down or whatever, or for that matter, like salt the land so that nothing would ever grow again just because it's theirs. And that's to do, and that's the, and because they don't have that right of abusus, we say they own it in usufruct, right? They have 2 out of the 3 pillars of ownership. When people riot, it is my contention, they are demonstrating a pillar of ownership. When people riot, they are saying that the conditions of their lives are completely unacceptable, and that they will simply smash shit, right? We talk about rioting and looting in the same breath, but a lot of times people separate out looting and they say, if a riot is a political act, why are people going and stealing TVs? Well, here's the reason why. The political act of the riot is an act of saying, this is ours, and we're allowed to smash it to bits because it only exists for us. And in that sense, it belongs to us, so we should be considered to own it, actually. And in the same sense, smashing in the storefront and then walking off with a television is actually the same statement. You know, it's saying these are products that have been delivered here to be owned by people. We go past this fucking storefront every day on our way to work, but we will never earn enough to be able to save up to afford this huge plasma screen TV. So I'm just having it. Now, none of that is necessarily going through the individual person's head when they're thinking, the cops can't get in here, they can't tell who I am, no one can stop me taking that TV, I want that TV. They're not necessarily thinking, I'm upholding one of the pillars of ownership, etc., but it still remains in line and actually remains part of the statement of the riot. I think that an important thing for the left to do in coming years, and starting as soon as fucking possible, in the process of building mutual aid, building spaces and communities, not just talking to your neighbors, but like arranging and organizing with your neighbors to meet each other's needs, to feed each other and make sure each other are safe and comfortable and housed and fed, that all your needs are met. That's potentially demonstrating a sort of usufruct ownership over a space, right? And if say, you organized with your neighbors and then you occupied a place so that you could meet people's needs, let's just take an example that is real, the Autonomous Winter Shelter. The Autonomous Winter Shelter was a bunch of people who got together and started a homeless shelter in an occupied building. They squatted it and they started running it as a homeless shelter in London. What happened? It was allowed to run through the winter because the state knew that the people who it was housing would definitely just die if they were kicked out on the street during the winter. So they let them keep them, right? And then when it got to spring, they sent about 200 riot police, like properly with the shields, with the everything, right, to kick out 24 people, most of whom were homeless, and a few of whom were there, running a homeless shelter. I think the statement of the riot is a reasonable response to a thing like that. Because a thing like that is demonstrating usufruct ownership of a part of the city. It's saying the city exists for us. It's the human habitat. It is to us as the nest is to ants, right? The hive is to bees, right? We built it and we live here, and we are both the function of it and it is its functions exist for us. Okay? And when we want people's needs to be met, for example, we want a homeless shelter here, we will simply operate one. So then if the state comes and shuts it down and denies usufruct ownership of the city, people should demonstrate the other pillar of ownership. And this is what I'm saying, is that riots as a response to completely unreasonable conditions, to say that you're not even letting people just live in such minimal ways that they want to just live, right? Is a very reasonable statement. And I think that so I'm very suspicious of people pointing to rioting in France as this response to the barest minimum not being met. And rather than saying we should look at where the popular anger is, right, where people are already upset, they're upset Niall was killed, right? They've got this clear thing in their minds that's unacceptable. They're saying that their space that they live in is policed, and it literally is, and that they don't feel safe with the police, and that they feel like they won't be able to go on existing, and they might literally not go on existing, like in Niall's case, right? They want to demonstrate an ownership of the space, and yeah, there is a progressive solution there, which is a politics of ownership that allows autonomy to the communities of people who are rioting. Anyway, that's just the note that I wanted to add on here, because I think it's quite important to what's being discussed. And I guess we'll carry on with Slavoj's opinions now. If you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command tip. I'd really appreciate if you donated, because I need money to live. Thanks. In this general situation, the left must assume the slogan of law and order as its own. One of the most depressing facts in recent history is that the only case of a violent revolutionary crowd invading a seat of power was on 6th of January 2021, when Donald Trump supporters stormed the US Capitol in Washington, D.C. They viewed the election as illegitimate, a theft organized by corporate elites. Left liberals reacted with a mix of fascination and horror. Who cares what left liberals think, Slavoj? Come on. Some of my friends cried, saying, we should be doing something like this. There was both envy and condemnation as they watched ordinary people breaking into the pinnacle of state sovereignty, creating a carnival that momentarily suspended the rules of public life. By launching a popular attack on the seat of power, has the populist right stolen the left's resistance to the prevailing system? Is our only choice now between parliamentary elections controlled by corrupted elites or uprisings controlled by the hard right? No wonder Steve Bannon, the ideologist of the populist right, declares himself a Leninist for the 21st century. I'm a Leninist. Lenin wanted to destroy the state. That's my goal too. Jesus Christ. I want to bring everything crashing down and destroy all of today's establishment. While the populist right was ecstatic about 6th of January, the liberal left acted like good old conservatives, asking for the National Guard to crush the rebellion. At the roots of this weird situation, we find a unique combination of anarchy and savage authoritarianism. We are entering a time of insurrection and mobocracy. Good lord, mobocracy. Mobocracy. Wow, 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 wow. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow. I'm actually realizing that although I know Zizek is a Marxist, I don't really know how he positions himself relative to Lenin, because of, you know, him citing this Bannon thing. Solidarity has tipped £5. Thank you so much, Solidarity. Or thank you for your solidarity, I guess is the point. But, you know, here he is talking about mobocracy, and I think, again, like, it just... Tom Nicholas has that great video about rule of, you know, fear of the mob rule, you know, fear of the populace, and where it comes from, and what the shapes of its kind of myths are. And I just think it's I don't know, just a bizarre, like, to be saying mobocracy betrays quite a level of fear of populism, fear of the populace that I wouldn't have expected from you know, an older Marxist. Okay. We are entering a time of insurrection and mobocracy, as well as the unprecedented concentration of power in the hands of a few. Sorry, the other reason that it's on my mind about, like, what does he think of Lenin is that, like, the whole analysis of Duovoistvo, the parallel power that the Bolsheviks had that allowed the Duma to wither away and then be replaced by the Soviet government. That comes from there being years of organizing that became networks, not entirely of mutual aid, like not so much pragmatic networks of resource sharing, but the Soviets emerged out of this. There was a class consciousness through things that was able to form a new power structure very rapidly through direct democracies, while the old bourgeois government and parliament was losing power. And I just think that, to me, whenever someone is saying a thing, you know, it's obviously a thought I've had before. Whenever anyone's saying about this as well, that, like, the only big insurrection into the halls of power, the only people to, like, storm the halls of power were right-wingers on behalf of Trump. So what? They couldn't do anything. They had there's no day one plan for, you know, January 7th, right, what's January 7th look like if they win the Capitol? January 7th looks like every fucking politician who would normally go to work there goes to work in a different place, and the National Guard has that building surrounded, and then they just close in and then just arrest everyone inside. Like, it's just such a strange status quo. Trump stays in power? No. Them capturing the Capitol buildings would not have actually led to Trump staying in power. That's what I'm saying. Like, it would not have actually... There is no pathway for them to move from capturing those buildings to Biden not being sworn in as the new president 13 days later. Like, I just find this... January 6th was a sports riot. They were mad their team lost. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, the storming of the Winter Palace does not resemble January 6th on any level other than the superficial. And even then, the fucking superficial level is kind of not that comparable, because like the storming of the Winter Palace was done by like a proper Bolshevik militia, and exactly as who said it? Youth Decay. No, sorry. No Mas 42 just said. The Trump supporters were far more like an angry sports team than like a militia. There are, of course, far-right militias in America, but the fucking... I don't know. I just find it very interesting to see someone pointing out the thing that, like, right-wingers are the ones who've done an insurrection most recently, but it's also, like, without saying that it was an insurrection in the palest terms, because without like systems in place to meaningfully enact power after an insurrection, you see what I mean? Like, this is the real concern of like a second Trump term, is that like in the meantime a lot of the Republican states have been like really cementing their hold on their own state power, right? What they're getting ready for is to be able to hold on, presumably in federation with each other, presumably a neo-confederacy, right? When they strip away from the federal level, or what they're obviously hoping for more than that is to have complete control of the federal level. But I just like, and you know that the concerning situation in America right now is that like the left is not distinguishing itself enough from the liberals. And the liberals are doing nothing, so a lot of the left are giving in to doomerism by just saying, well, shit, the liberals aren't solving it for us. Guess we'll die. And it's just, I don't know. A lot is missing in this analysis here from Zizek, and it's very disappointing. Not as disappointing as other stuff he's done recently, obviously, but we'll carry on. We'll carry on reading about mobocracy, I guess. I don't think we are entering a time of insurrection and mobocracy is the thing. I think we are entering a time of insurrection. I do agree that there will continue to be insurrections, that there will continue to be a ton of popular uprisings over the next, say, half a century of politics. We're going to be seeing a lot of them. I think that's just an inarguable thing for anyone who's looking at the current state of world politics, unless you're a particularly optimistic Henry Kissinger fan, and you believe that the power of the American empire will be able to squash the effects of climate change. But this idea of mobocracy, again, it's like the answer to it is just very simple, which is like people organizing mutual aid networks, organizations and systems that will provide for people and provide them security, not in the law and order sense, but in the here is your next meal sense. Seems pretty obvious to me. Nice taste in Monster Energy, by the way. Thank you. It's because I'm a dyke. Anyway, my friend did a quiz that was like, what does your favorite Monster Energy say about you? And she was refusing to admit she was a woman at the time. And she picked her favorite, her second favorite, and third favorite flavors. And the reply for absolutely all of them was, "You're a lesbian." Anyway, we are going to carry on with this article. Mobocracy. At the roots of this weird situation, we find a unique combination of anarchy and savage authoritarianism. We are entering a time of insurrection and mobocracy, as well as the unprecedented concentration of power in the hands of a few. It is what the philosopher Catherine Malibu calls the combination, at once senseless, monstrous, and unprecedented, of savage verticality and uncontrollable horizontality. And as the state's social function has been eroded through years of austerity, it can now only express itself through the use of violence. That is why it is crucial not just to dismiss the state as the instrument of domination. In natural disasters, public health catastrophes, and periods of social unrest... everyone, I am going to go for 2 minutes. I have to solve a problem in the house. But I will be right back after this. Rojo Mild has muted the music, so I'm gonna roast him, and they won't even know. Rojo Mild, more like Rojo Mid. Hey everyone, sorry about this. I am back. Things are resolved, but also there's a really nice cloud outside, and my friends have a cloud appreciators group chat, so I'm gonna be 2 more minutes because I just gotta go take a picture of this cloud. Okay. Hey everyone! Clown appreciator group chat. There should be one of those. I completely agree. That's probably the biggest problem, is that we don't have a clown appreciator group chat. That's what's holding us back as a society, I think. My lighting is a little strange today. Let's see if we can fix it. Okay, like this. How's that? Yeah? Ah, that's pretty good. Okay. Okay. We're getting back to it. We're getting back to it. We're getting back to it. The left must embrace law and order. I'm gonna go from the big I again. I don't know why there's a big I at this point, but it is denoting some kind of break in the, See also the plain-speaking philosophers. Oh my god. This is very irritating. I'm not gonna look at that. It's just gonna make me annoyed. Okay. Nonetheless, there's a break here, so I'm gonna go from it again. In this general situation, the left must assume the slogan of law and order as its own. One of the most depressing facts in recent history is that the only case of a violent revolutionary crowd invading the seat of power was on 6th of January 2021, when Donald Trump supporters stormed the US Capitol in Washington, D.C. They viewed the election as illegitimate and a theft organized by corporate elites. Left liberals reacted with a mix of fascination and horror. Some of my friends cried, saying, "We should be doing something like this." There was both envy and condemnation as they watched ordinary people breaking into the pinnacle of state sovereignty, creating a carnival that momentarily suspended the rules of public life. By launching a popular attack on the seat of power, has the populist right stolen the left's resistance to the prevailing system? Is our only choice now between parliamentary elections controlled by corrupted elites or uprisings controlled by the hard right? No wonder Steve Bannon, the ideologist of the populist right, declares himself a Leninist for the 21st century. I'm a Leninist. Lenin wanted to destroy the state, and that's my goal too. I want to bring everything crashing down and destroy all of today's establishment. While the populist right was ecstatic about 6th of January, the liberal left acted like good old conservatives, asking for the National Guard to crush the rebellion. Also, like, another thing here is, there are very clear historical analogues to the people storming the Capitol on January 6th. The Black Hundreds were a reactionary Tsarist group during the Russian Revolution who, a reactionary Tsarist group during the Russian Revolution who, like, engaged in pogroms and, like, street battles against the Bolsheviks and against, against, general, like, left-wing, street activists. And they're extremely, like, readily comparable to the MAGA right-wingers right now. And during the, like, struggles over the Winter Palace and the struggles over control of what would become the USSR, the Black Hundreds did a lot of shit that was honestly, like, really similar to the January 6th insurrection. It's really important again to like this is the like we call it an insurrection, but when a bunch of people who represent the guy who's in power come in to try to do a coup to keep the guy who's in power, do we not make any kind of like semantic distinction there? I don't know. Very strange. Everyone, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command tip. I am working on a really big project at the moment. I would really appreciate donations. I have not been able to stream very much. I mean, this is the first stream this month, and we're like two weeks into the month. I've been working on this big project for a really, really long time, which has meant that my income has gone down and down and down, which is very frustrating. It's just kind of the way that my job works, but it does mean that I need, to ask for donations occasionally. At the root of this weird situation, we find a unique combination of anarchy, just bizarre use of the word anarchy here, and savage authoritarianism. We are entering a time of insurrection and mobocracy, as well as the unprecedented concentration of power in the hands of a few. It is what the philosopher Catherine Malibu calls the combination, at once senseless and monstrous and unprecedented, of savage verticality and uncontrollable horizontality. Now, I'm not sure I follow what the uncontrollable horizontality is, but maybe it's like maybe it's the more stochastic nature of modern politics. And as the state's social function has been eroded through years of austerity, it can now only express itself through the use of violence. That is why it is crucial not to just dismiss the state as the instrument of domination. In natural disasters, public health catastrophes, and periods of social unrest, progressive forces must try and seize state power and use it not only to calm people's fears in times of emergency, but also to fight those fears, racist, xenophobic, sexist, anti-progressive, artificially concocted to keep populations in check. The left shouldn't be afraid to add to its tasks ensuring the safety of ordinary people. There are clear signs of the growing decay of manners, of youthful gangs terrorizing public spaces, from stations to shopping malls. Mentioning this decay is often dismissed as reactionary, with the insistence that we must look at the deeper social roots of such phenomena, such as unemployment and institutional racism. Yet if the left disregards public safety, it is conceding to the enemy an important domain of dissatisfaction that, in a time of anarchy, pushes people to the right. Everyday insecurity hurts the poor much more than the rich who live calmly in their gated communities. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very strange one. So, looking at the deeper social roots is one of those very left liberal phrases. And he's right about that, right? That, like, there is a very left liberal tendency to say, we have to look at the deeper social roots, and the overall aim of this is to simply forgive things that we agree are actually wrong things to do. But I'm not really calling for that here, where I'm talking about riots, where I'm talking about a claim of ownership that I think comes out of rioting. I'm not looking to forgive. I'm looking for people to figure out how to act on political energy and momentum and anger. And so the idea of like we don't just tell me to look at the deeper social roots. It's a little askew to what I would be responding to this with, because like the social roots of the riots in France aren't deep at all. Like they're incredibly plain to see. A 17-year-old was killed by the police, and then everybody kicked the fuck off. That's not deep. Maybe if you're asking the question, why did they kick the fuck off, rather than, I don't know, petition the government, you might have to construct quite a deep answer, but only because you'd made a deliberately bizarre question, to be honest. Oh, thank you so much, Pillbug Hug, for the £15. Really appreciate that. But yeah, I don't think that it's... I think that it's... there's a difference between saying we need to look for the cause of this so that we understand it as a reasonable thing, and then just accept that it's fine for people to riot. I'm not saying that at all. When people riot, as MLK said, it's the language of the unheard, and I'm more interested in hearing them, you know, like, and then acting on it, not in a sense that recuperates their political dissatisfaction into society and makes it all just kind of fine, but rather like takes that energy and uses it in a more productively radical way, if that makes sense to everyone. Is Zizek basically arguing that the we can fix the state from within? Well, so here's the thing. Here's an interesting thing again about him having cited this quote about this quote from Bannon about being a right-wing Leninist, and then not kind of going anywhere with it. I think he may have been being a little cheeky in the article here, or it might not be deliberate, but he is saying this thing about, let's just read it back. Progressive forces must try and seize state power and use it. Yeah, so Lenin advocated repeatedly that the apparatus of state should be cut to pieces, right? That parts should be clamped off, suffocated, other bits should be smashed, bits should be isolated, and that they could be then seized and controlled by the growing movement. And a great example of this, I think, would be Lenin was a big fan of the U.S. Postal Office. He was really impressed by what those lads were doing over there. So, you know, if you were to say what parts of the American state would Lenin say should be cut off, seized, become part of the new revolutionary state, the post office would be an example of that. And so Zizek is making somewhat of a Leninist case in some regard there, right? He's not saying fix the state from within. He's saying dismantle the state and use parts of it, and he's not really saying the dismantle part is the part that it's kind of kind of odd. The insistence that we must look at the deeper social roots of such phenomena, such as unemployment and institutional racism. Yeah, but that's just it. That's what I'm saying. Oh, Meg598, thank you so much for the £5 and saying enjoying the stream. Thasmandar has tipped £50. Oh my goodness. Says money for the money god. I'm assuming that's Bezos. Funds for the fund throne. Thank you so much, Thasmandar. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I don't think that the solution to there being rioting in France is we should look at the deeper social roots of the rioting. I think the solution is that the people rioting should be considered part of the de facto left. Like, they should be considered, like, because they are people who are willing to put their bodies on the line, get out onto the street and immediately oppose the state. They are the kind of people that, frankly, French leftists should be reaching out to. They as communities of people who are angry and willing to make their anger heard, are exactly the people that the unionist movement, the trade unionist movement, should be reaching out to and saying, we have solidarity with your anger, with your struggle against the police. Sorry to be annoying about this, but did my sub gifts go through? My PayPal is being weird at Sophie from Mars. Sorry, Small Cute Frog. I don't think I've seen that. I'll just scroll up in the chat to see if I... was this recent? I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything, I'm afraid. So I'm gonna say no, probably. I really like your username though, like Malinure is saying. The unionists? No, I mean, like I say, the trade unionists. Yeah, this is the thing, right? Like, it's not, the liberal commentariat should have a good hard think about what's wrong there, have a chat to their uncle who works in the State Department, and then pass some grants to I don't know, deal with institutional racism, deal with it. It's that the organized and powerful left in France should be saying, we are people who are organizing to show our power to the state, to show that we want to change society fundamentally, and you are saying that too, so we are in the same boat, and then work together. Yet if the left disregards public safety, it is conceding to the enemy an important domain of dissatisfaction that, in a time of anarchy, pushes people to the right. Yeah, I mean, again, like, there are these various studies about, like, just there being rioting and there being, riot police out, and basically an authoritarian spiral of, like, more times of uncertainty lead, like, the general population to get more authoritarian in the kind of policy they favor. So yeah, pushes people to the right is a somewhat accurate thing there. But everyday insecurity hurts the poor much more than the rich, who live calmly in their gated communities. And there's the flip side of it to me. Like, everyday insecurity hurts the poor much more than the rich, who live calmly in their gated communities. It's like, I don't know. Again, what I was saying about, like, a riot being a demonstration of ownership, even though it's an abusive demonstration of ownership. The people who aren't rioting because Nahel was killed are feeling like they don't own the space, because the space is being claimed by people who are angry about the racist cops in France, right? Like, that's the kind of statement being made by rioting there. And so it's kind of, this whole article has kind of talked around the anger that is driving the riots. Like, it has kind of talked around the intentionality of rioting, and that shouldn't be that much of a surprise, because he's used this phrase that I don't know if he came up with this word or mobocracy, right? But he's referring to the myth of mob rule, the idea that, like, that crowds are this, just unknowable and bloodthirsty beast with no kind of mind or intelligence, and, like, it's a fundamentally classist and frequently racist myth. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a very bizarre thing, and, like, again, because of that same, like, fear of the mob, I guess, he's just not reckoning with like, the intentionality behind the riot, therefore what the riot actually means, and therefore what could be the implications of what the riot means. Anyway, disappointing stuff from Slavoj yet again, which shouldn't be too surprising, because his best work really appears to be behind him. Okay. Oh, the red stripes on the side of this, though? Have we seen that? Wow. The red stripes? I just forgot about them. I thought they had the white ones, same as the shirt. Why are you laughing at me?
They're cute.
Okay. Next I have a palette cleanser. Everyone's favorite centrist clown, Sir Keith Starmer, KC, Knight of the Realm, once again being talked about in the New Statesman, because they just cannot stop talking about that boy. I want to have a read of this article. I've been drawn in by the headline image. Here. I think we could probably spend quite a little while talking about this headline image. It's just quite something. It's just really quite something. Let me move my camera box. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah, that's the, Hey, Nat, you want to get in on this for a sec? Just want to get your take on this image that they've used for the article we're discussing. Yeah.
This is this is like that picture of the like JFK's nephew. Like, in terms of like, why did he agree to this image? For what purpose?
Well, there are just lots of things in this image, and I'm going to start with the less obvious ones because we're going to get to.
The children are facing away.
But there's the children
him.
aren't looking at the camamera.
He's loitering.
There are sinks, so I don't know what this space is that they're in. I don't know if it's a bathroom, if this is the edge of a bathroom. But if it is, why is there a map of the United Kingdom that has nothing labeled on it?
It's like an L shape.
And
wow, that's weird.
And well, wait, because that's a map of the United Kingdom, which is partially obscured by these shelves, but that's a map of the world that's completely obscured by these shelves, because British kids don't need to learn about the world, but they maybe need to learn a little bit about Scotland and Northern Ireland.
They've placed those maps at really weird heights for the kids to actually be able to see them. Yeah. But he's just loitering there.
Again, where is there? Because it really does seem to be a bathroom to me.
Completely glassy-eyed, like not looking at anything.
It really seems like it is a bathroom, in my opinion. Let's just quickly go The Atlantic, MAGA Democrat, and just because this is a last time on liberal slop situation. This is a
right. Same deal, right?
Inside the mind of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Yeah. Last picture, time on liberal slop.
This picture looks much less weird to me now, like in association with this one. Yeah. Which is just like. Yeah. It's
giving nonce.
I mean, he doesn't look good, does he?
It just has to be said. It just has to be said that at a time when the British press is once again engaging in a nonce hunt,
they have made him look as creepy as possible.
They've got a picture here of, and here he is.
He looks
and
like...
I think that's the classroom. We can tell by the tables and chairs. Yeah. And this, like you can see it could be like a kitchen or something. You are right about that.
Science room.
It could be like a kitchen or something.
Sure.
I agree. But
they've made him look as creepy as possible.
Maybe the article has a...
What is this? What's the title?
No, photo by PA Images. The title of this article... Oh, thank you so much, Slop, for tipping £50. I really appreciate that. What's the point of Labour when there's less money to spend?
Oh, God.
Keir Starmer needs a strategy for an era of economic scarcity. And I guess the strategy is to just start...
Stealing children's lunch. That's what the picture's about. He's there to steal their lunch. Because Labour reneged on their promise for free school meals for kids.
I thought
they're scum.
I thought the suggestion is to start noncing to save money. It's just such a fucking weird image.
It is a fucking weird image.
It's just such a fucking weird image. The strategy is to fire your photographers. I agree. Thank you, Grove DG. That's extremely true.
Why did he allow
just
why
eat
did
the
he
children?
for this
Yeah,
picture?
absolutely. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe there were just like photos being taken as happenings were happening, and this wasn't a constructed photo at all.
And one of the photographers followed the children into the bathroom, and then Keir Starmer came over to say, "What are you doing in that bathroom? You should step away from those children. What gender do you identify as?" And then got him.
Yeah.
Game over.
Why did they pick this photograph?
There's an uncropped version on stock image sites, and it is indeed a bathroom. Fuck!
Why the fuck did they do this? This image is going to be the last straw I'm going to snap and have a breakdown.
That's reasonable. That's entirely reasonable. Can someone link me the uncropped version? I'm trying to find... No, we got it. Okay. Alright, let's go have a look.
Porteous Fortis says, Keir looks worried that the children might have a viewpoint that he hasn't totally capitulated on yet.
That's pretty good. I like that. How do I open up this one then? Oh, this sucks.
I mean, as we've seen recently, Keir Starmer's clearly very afraid of children and young people.
Yeah, it is a bath. It's the bathroom kind of waiting area, I guess. There's some kind of sort of
where the sinks are.
Yeah, there's sinks out here, and then it says boys on there. So, yeah, right. There we go.
So was this?
And there's Keir Starmer.
Was this pic? Did he actually do like some kind of? Okay, this is a horrifying idea.
Well,
that cannot be true.
Well, just you tell me it, but in the meantime, I'm gonna skeet this picture.
Okay.
Because for the good of posting kind.
Like it cannot be true that he did some kind of like promo image to flaunt his like stance on trans people in school, right? That can't be true.
Surely not.
Because that would be too much. But at the same time,
yes.
What is the purpose of this image?
Well, now. I might start a folder. I might start saving images on my computer hard drive, of politicians
in the weirdest
looking as weird as a human being has ever looked.
But they chose those. They chose to be in those images.
I'm going immediately back on that, because while I can save the RFK one, this just simply gives such nonce vibes that I want to stop looking at it now.
Yeah.
I don't want it saved on my computer. I feel bad about what Keir has done here. This is just dreadful. Why? Also, I understand why they've cropped it, because the other girl's face was in it.
Right.
That makes sense. But the unfortunate result of cropping it is just like, as an image, this version.
It looks like the kids are mad at him, and
it looks like
away.
the kids are just like in deep shame, just like facing away.
There's
like they've just been sent into the
image, right?
It's horrible. It's like Keir's standing here, right?
Yeah.
He's all,
right.
tulpa moding as usual,
yeah.
right? And the kids are just like, they won't even look at us.
Right.
He will look at us. They won't look at us. It's like we've done something. The kids are ashamed of us, the viewer. He's angry at us, the viewer. The kids are Blair Witching it. Exactly.
Why is
we haven't read a word of this article, and I'm not even fussed to, because this image is so fucking strange. It deserves to be like some. By the way, slop enjoyers, slop heads, slop hogs. What is this? Oh Christ! Oh Christ! He's smiling in this one. That's fucking worse.
Okay, maybe it was some kind of just event thing. Okay. That's reassuring, honestly, because it's hard to wrap my head.
Well, I'm gonna stop looking at that one.
This photo being deliberate.
It's just so bad.
He's just so joyless.
Slop heads.
I can't look at his face anymore.
We had an RFK fan on Twitter in my replies after the last Liberal Slop stream.
Yeah.
And that was just deeply funny. They were mad as hell. They said that I was making fun of his voice. If you were here for the last Liberal Slop stream, I know it was a couple weeks ago now, you may remember, I did not make fun of his voice. I made fun of the journalist who said his voice sounded like Marge Simpson, because his voice does not sound like Marge Simpson. I did make fun of this picture for about half an hour straight, because it is so fucking ridiculous. He's standing on a milk crate. He's standing on a fucking milk crate. Who did this? Who? I can't get into this again. I can't do this again. I can't do this again. I can't fucking do this again. Also, what is this image? Coming in? No, you're just getting your phone. Okay. Oh, God. Okay. All right. What's the point of Labour? I agree. What's the point of Labour when there's less money to spend? Asinine. Fucking asinine way of starting your article. Just infuriating. We're just going to have to occasionally take breaks to just go back and look at this dreadful image as the palate cleanser, I think. Lewis Goodall. Where do I know this name from? I know this guy. The Dale Farm eviction is the ugly side of localism. Both central and local government are failing in their roles as guarantors of minority rights. Huh. Well, that sounds like a rare, good pro-traveller take in the UK press. Okay. Okay, we're going to have a read of what's the point of Labour when there's less money to spend? This is so... No, I am moving on from it. Okay, education was on both main parties' minds last week. Parties don't have minds. This was a novelty, and that should surprise us. For virtually the entire period from New Labour through the Tory Lib Dem coalition government, education reform, school standards, and social mobility were essential feature of our politics. Yet for nearly a decade since Michael Gove ceased to be Education Secretary, and certainly since Brexit, education and social mobility have been, at best, peripheral. Okay. We immediately need to pause. I know I'm doing the thing. I'm trying not to do the thing, but I am doing the thing. Sue me. We immediately need to pause because the idea that education and social mobility were genuinely a focus of New Labour is... It's a misdirect. Let's just keep it simple. It's a misdirect. When Blair said education, he wasn't... Oh, my webcam's really dusty. I'm just brushing some dust off you viewers. There you go. You're less dusty now. Congratulations. When Blair said education, he wasn't actually saying, I care about education. He wasn't saying, I want to improve education. He was saying... There are market opportunities in education. Head pats from Sophie. I can give you head pats. You like that? Is that good? That's because you've all been good chatters. Now give me your fucking money. He was saying there are market opportunities in education, right? He was saying there are opportunities for fucking privatization in education, and that's exactly what followed in the rest of his term and the Tory Lib Dem coalition's term, right? Oh my god, the chat's completely distracted. You're not listening to a word I'm saying. You are not listening to a single word I am saying. Chat, come on. This is it's liberal slop time. You're supposed to be I'm just gonna wait for you all to behave. I'm just gonna wait. You're so fucked up about this, you know? You're so fucked up about me patting the camera on the head and you're not even celebrating by donating, by giving me money, by calling me mommy. No, you're not even celebrating by paying me when I'm very clear that if you're enjoying the stream, you should at least consider paying for the stream. I can't believe my entire chat is bottoms. I can't believe every single one of you has one brain cell that is completely overwhelmed by me just going, you've been so good. You're so good and well behaved. Wow, good girl. It's not like, this is not... Jesus Christ. Chat, come on. Wow. Okay. I've got all night. $5. That's right. Kira was right to say it. And I don't mind saying it too. Give me your money. Come on. I'm not fucking around with this. inflates Sophie's tip jar, making it big and round. That's very good. Thank you, Candace Wright, for tipping £10 and saying, celebrating the head pats. Tammy's Tunes, thank you for tipping £2.56 and saying, top representing all the bottom girlies here. Remember, dears, giving Sophie money is based. Giving Sophie money is based. Well done. Well done, Tammy's Tunes. You're such a top. You're definitely a top. I believe you. I love that there's a live chat energy right now, but the VOD watchers, they're just having the weirdest time. they can't even see the chat. Okay. Slop, are we all gonna behave? The VOD watchers have skipped this. I completely disagree. Okay. Do you think you'd ever put chat on screen, or do you think that'd be too distracting? I get lots of trolls who say horrible stuff. No, I mean, I occasionally get trolls who say horrible stuff. I also have had people in chat who were in my life who are no longer in my life in a way that I would not like to preserve before, if you catch my drift. So I probably won't put chat on screen at any point, because those two things, like, I just don't really... It is something I wrestle with seriously, because I do really value the contributions of the class during Liberal Slop streams. I think it's really important. And that's why I'm always trying to read out lots of messages and respond to what people are saying in the chat, because I do think it's genuinely really important to have a dialogue. I don't know. Actually, you know, now I'm talking it through, I'm probably realizing I'm a lot more open to it than I thought. I might mess around and have it on screen for a test run, like next Liberal Slop stream or whatever, and the VOD watchers are replaying this. Like, you will be. I might try out having the chat on screen. Right. Prince Infidel, thank you so much for tipping £13.12. Fine, here, can we get more slop now? Wow, the attitude. Okay, well, I'm just waiting another 5 minutes then. No, I wanted to talk about the privatization of education, right? When Blair said education, 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 he was saying there is an opportunity for neoliberalism to create a market here. As a VOD watcher, I don't really mind. I would enjoy seeing the chat on screen, but it's a fun game figuring out what is happening just from what you're saying, lol. Okay, thank you for that feedback, Candace, right? I appreciate that. Also, hello, I can see you're a first-time chatter, and it's nice to have VOD watchers here for the first time. That's cool. Oh, I thought he said boys, boys, boys. Lamau. Anyway, where was I? He was saying there's a neoliberal market opportunity in education. And that's exactly what happened, right? It started with higher education. Higher education became increasingly marketized. Over the next 10 years, you saw university fees go up threefold. You saw free education for all Scottish residents disappear. You saw universities shift their fundamental business model from being state-funded public research and education institutions to being landlords. That's all the direct result of the neoliberalization of education as a sector under Blair. Jenny Azoth has tipped £5 and says, asterisks, inflation noises. I'm sure I don't know what those sound like. started with higher education and progressed downwards, right? Academies were a huge part of it. I think there's also like the actually I'm not super familiar with like preschool, primary school, middle school, whatever. I'm not going to go super into it, but like they're replacing with lots of state high schools with academies, and that's obviously not like those state high schools get knocked down, but rather what's it called, Ofsted ranking and reviewing all of these institutions, and then if they are like critically low rated, then they end up being like coming into administration and basically being like recommended to become an academy. All of this is the systematic privatization. Now, systematic and systemic is a distinction Nat and I have been talking about a lot recently. This is a little kind of linguistic distinction we find quite helpful. Systemic failure often means systematic success. Policing systemically fails. Nat's saying she's not sure about this, but I am, so I'm going to carry on. Policing systemically fails because policing has a problem of systemic racism. But the thing is, policing is not systemically racist, it's systematically racist. Policing exists in the first place in ways with intentions that are there to create racial segregation and racialized outcomes. Only those intentions can't be explicitly stated because of liberal reforms towards anti-racism. So policing is not systemically corrupt, but rather systematically corrupt, right? The nominal system is doing one thing, the bigger actual system is doing another. So, for example, when the education system is failing, it's failing and then getting replaced piecemeal by privatized education solutions, right? That's the systematic privatization of education without it being attended to thoroughly and carefully and deliberately, openly replaced by private institutions, right? Rather, instead, a rule is laid down that schools that fall behind should be, reviewed and replaced with some kind of private solution, right? Some kind of public-private partnership should step in to get the money to pay for the. That's just wonderful. So, if you were saying that if you were talking about the strategies of the Tory party, you could absolutely say they were systemically underfunding things like healthcare and education. But this, the like underfunding in the NHS and the education system, these are systemic failures, right? But their outcomes are part of a broader system which is not the nominally stated one. And the nominally stated one is the one that exists there to create health outcomes, education outcomes. But the actual system there is to enforce failures on purpose and then drive toward public-private partnerships. That's because the broader system going on is neoliberalism, right? So the framework that these things exist within, right, they're having a systematic shift from what they were before into this new framework of total privatization. Thank you so much, Jaren Pumpkins, for the £10 and for saying thanks for all the content. Glad I could catch you live for once. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. My high school got made an academy and then they started not being able to afford paper anymore. Yeah, exactly. Becoming an academy sucks and is bad for kids. Sorry, hold on. And this idea that education and social mobility were this huge focus for New Labour, it's just nonsense. Like, again, nominally perhaps, right, they were talking about improving education standards and creating social mobility for kids by educating them better. But if your party has thrown all like socialism and all real leftism under the bus and is now like the party of neoliberalism, the hip new thing, radical free enterprise, right? You're not fucking interested in social mobility. This is just the language that neoliberalism uses to pretend to care about the poor and working class, right? Because neoliberalism is fundamentally about concentrating as much wealth as possible in the hands of the ultra-wealthy, the most extreme verticality conceivable, levels of power heretofore unseen in human history in the hands of the tiniest possible few, right? This is literally the point of neoliberalism. Milton Friedman at the Chicago School of Economics was considered an absolute fucking crank, a lunatic radical who was the only person who believed that this kind of like completely deregulated free market concept could work in any kind of sense. And then rich people who realized they could become obscenely rich people through that kind of economics propped it up and promoted it through government and spread it all around the fucking world, right? It's not any kind of argument towards progressive values or equality with the notion of the free market is just obscenely cruel and utter like gaslighting, honestly, because it is just laughing in your face while saying, this game we're putting you through, that if you can make the most money, then you have succeeded and you've proven your worth as a person, right? The idea that that is somehow, in any sense, like an equalizing factor, that the free market can be an equalizing factor towards people, yeah, it's actively cruel to pretend that. It's an actively horrible, inhuman, and cruel thing to do. And again, right, so Blair started in areas where this is like more optional, more of a, okay, well, we'll see if that works out. It won't be the worst thing if everything goes wrong with it. Higher education, right? And therefore he's able to make his completely blue sky, high-minded, clear-eyed promises towards social mobility. More people will be able to get university degrees. Only the outcome of that actually turns out to be university degrees are massively undervalued because university degrees turned out to be a way that the ruling class would codify with an actual paper trail of bureaucratic paperwork the nepotism with which they keep their entire society turning over. And if you give thousands upon thousands more kids university degrees, you'll quickly find out that the jobs, which were like 90% nepotism and 10% people getting qualified and there being actual job opportunities for them, there will not be fucking job opportunities for them, and you wind up with a massively disenfranchised generation or two even of university educated leftists, right? And this is a huge contributor to the fact to the social like climate we have, to the social and political climate we have in the UK today. The idea that it's generating social mobility, fucking horrible. Again, liberals will not invent class analysis, but it's not going to stop them trying. The idea that they're going to make people upwardly socially mobile by giving them advantages and giving them more opportunities, Jesus fucking Christ. Abolish the class system. And then people won't need to climb upward socially because they will be equal already? Question mark? This just seems so fucking asinine. Okay, I've talked myself in a big circle for long enough. Let's actually return to the article. And I'm looking at the picture again. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Fuck. Okay. On the Conservative side, the running was not being made by Rishi Sunak, who, save for an obsession with maths and giving huge sums of money to his alma mater, has little to say about the schooling of millions. It was left to the New Conservatives, the latest faction of the right on the right of the party, to outline their proposals, which amounted to hackneyed arguments about fewer pupils needing to go to university. Inevitably, when politicians say that, they mean someone else's. Keir Starmer's offering was more substantial, weaving together themes of education, social mobility, and class. Good lord. The Labour leader is a relative outlier in British politics in being able to talk authoritatively about the latter. Fucking, what, class? Jesus Christ. He never tires to remind us that as a child he lived in a pebble-dashed semi. It says much that this should be considered unusual. Sadly, given how many MPs these days are buy-to-let landlords, the average parliamentarian is more likely to own a string of pebble-dashed semis than to have grown up in one. I mean, they're right, but Jesus Christ. There is more to this discourse about education than emphasizing lived experience, though. In its own way, a focus on class and social mobility is a subtle answer to the politics of the so-called culture wars. Labour struggles with the latter, but all its factions... Sorry, I'm still kind of reeling from the idea that he talks authoritatively about class. I'm kind of... Because this is like... Just a moment. Like, the admiration that this guy is pouring onto Starmer... we just had a look at the guy's other articles, and one of them was actually like pro traveller and criticizing the eviction at Dale Farm. Very rare for the British press, right? But now like he fucking loves Starmer. He says that Starmer is one of the only people who can talk authoritatively about class. I'm cringing with every fiber of my being.
Can talk authoritatively about class? Starmer?
Right?
What?
Right?
What?
A cat made entirely of urine has tipped £10. Please, Sophie, just 2 head pats. I'm desperate for human affection from a communard. Thank you for your tip. Oh, shit. Have we lost connection? My browser is being weird. Oh, no, I think it's just Twitter. Chat, are you still there? Chat, please say something if you can... We see you. Yeah, okay. It's just my Twitter specifically then. That's really weird. I wanted to find this video of... maybe it's on YouTube if Twitter isn't working. Twitter is always doing that? Yeah, of course. Twitter crashed Lamau. Let's just check Twitter down... is Twitter down? I'm seeing a spike in reports that it's down. Maybe. We'll see. Anyway. Keir Starmer speech interrupted. Who are the activists from? Were they Just Stop Oil? Here we go.
It places barriers, not just economic barriers. I gave on the mission on green power. We did that last one. We've done that one. Will you just? We are on the side of economic growth. Will you just let me please get on with this? Thank you very much. We have already... will you just let me finish this and I'll come and talk to you about it? Thank you very much. Look, my last speech was about this. Will you please... There's lots of people who want to hear this. Please don't drown them out. Please don't drown them out. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm loving seeing this from a different angle, actually, because now I've just spotted this egg, and I'm just fascinated. We seeing this? We seeing this, chat? This egg here? Good lord. Good fucking lord. My questions, right? I have several questions, right? One, it's like, is this a student, right? Because this is meant to be a speech where he's like talking about young people. I didn't give the context for why I was bringing this up, but I was bringing this up because he was giving this speech about what the Labour Party would do for young people and for education if they were elected. One of the things he was talking about in the speech was oracy, right? Training people to speak better. So I, for one, applaud the Prime Minister, but encourage him to go even further and give voice training lessons to the entire nation. I think that every child deserves to sound as cunty as possible. I think that it's the British people's dream to have cunty children who sound like Barbie dolls. And I think that is the only way that we can be recognised again as a national power, as an international power on the world stage, and furthermore, Ligma. Fucking the idea of Keir Starmer saying that he's going to teach people how to speak good, it's just such an obvious setup to come fuck him up, right? It's
pretty insulting. I will say
he is saying, come interrupt my speech, come fuck me up right now. And then they did.
The first time I heard that man speak, I couldn't believe my ears. I couldn't believe that was what that guy sounded like.
Right, like a swan who had an orange stuck in his throat. Yeah. He's awful to listen to.
He's really, really awful to listen to.
Right, so now I've given you all the context, because this is obviously, in the article they're talking about caring about education and social mobility. Starmer's solution for social mobility for kids is for them to speak real good and be confident speaking. He came out and announced this. A bunch of young people who were confident speaking interrupted him to say, hey, why don't we stop the planet from being on fire? And he said, please don't interrupt me. I'm busy doing important politics right now. Thank you. So that's all the context, right? That's why I was bringing this up. And then we fucking wound up with this. The situation going on over here. Now, I think this might be one of the young people who've been invited to stand near Keir Starmer, right? Which I think was the deal with the protesters too. Like, they asked young people who would like to come stand near Keir Starmer. And then people who saw an opportunity for protest did it. But, like, it's just the incredible, like, shaking hands meme of, like, dudes who will wear a suit and tie to stand near Keir Starmer and have a fucking bob, right? Because they are, like, the hip new thing, radical free enterprise. They're the fucking 90s kid who loves neoliberalism. Or because they're just desperately confused about every aspect of their identity, and we will be very happy for her in about 5 to 10 years' time. Love the Trash Future impressions of Keir. Me too. I don't know. Actually, I have no idea when it's coming out, but I guessed it on Trash Future recently. I don't know if I think it's a bonus episode for that Patreon, but it was very funny. I enjoyed being on there a lot, and I hope they want to have me back because it was a blast. I think that's Trent Krim of The Independent. God damn it, Locan. Fucking hell. They're really referencing Ted Lasso in my liberal slop stream right now. I'm livid. No, Trent Krim of The Independent would be down there, because that's the journalists' pool, right? This is what I'm saying. This is this here is the young people who are standing next to him for a photo opportunity. This is maybe their teacher? So maybe they are a teacher as well? Question mark? I just there's so much happening here.
My last speech was about this. Will you please, there's lots of people who want to hear this. Please don't drown them out. Please don't drown them out. Thank you very much.
Mystery neoliberal egg. I want to know more. I really must know more. And yet I cannot. There is no way of knowing. Oh well, we'll get back to the article. I'm sorry this has been so many. Oh fucking hell, not again. Jesus Christ. No. No. Nah, I'm trying to get back to the article. And I just remembered this fucking header image. I'm trying so hard. I'm really trying so hard here. Fucking hell. Okay. All right. Okay. Right. Here we go. Keir Starmer's offering was more substantial, weaving together themes of education, social mobility, and class. The Labour leader is a relative outlier in British politics, being able to talk authoritatively about the latter. He never tires to remind us that as a child he lived in a pebble-dashed semi. It says much that this should be considered unusual. Sadly, given how many MPs these days are buy-to-let landlords, the average parliamentarian is more likely to own a string of pebble-dashed semis than to have grown up in one. There is more to this discourse about education than emphasizing lived experience, though. In its own way, a focus on class and social mobility is a subtle answer to the politics of the so-called culture wars. Oh, good fucking lord. This is going to be a treasure of an article. This is going to be fucking... Okay, I'm so excited. Labour struggles with the latter, but all its factions are more comfortable with class and social mobility. And it was refreshing to hear a senior politician not only talk about these ideas... Okay, firstly, just for a second here, Lewis, fucking listen here, mate. Just for a moment, Lewis. He's not a senior politician. He entered politics really fucking late. Okay? He may be getting on a bit, right? He's what, 60? But, like, he's not a senior politician. He's a senior citizen. No, that's unfair. Like... He's not a fucking senior politician. He's a way, way, way shorter career than practically anyone in Parliament. And it's something that people point out all the time, and it makes you sound ridiculous when you say that. But make them central. This is what my political project, my vision, is about, Starmer. Sorry. This is what my political project, my vision, is about, Starmer said. But to listen to Starmer talk, I'd really rather not, about these issues is to glimpse both the promise and limitations of that project and any premiership it may yield. Can you imagine if we get a Starmer supporter the same way we had an RFK supporter last week? If, like, I finish the stream, I go check Twitter, there's someone underneath being like, you just made fun of his voice, and you laughed at that photo?
Somehow I feel like it's far less likely to happen.
And I get, like,
swinging in
horrible deja vu, but, like, I actually was, like, laughing at his voice in the photo.
Yeah.
His instincts are right, but his prescription is shaky. The idea of oracy, we're getting to it, of helping working class kids to communicate and get on, was noble. Oh my god. Oh, fucking hell. Fucking hell. It is also revealing that it won't cost much money. The truth is, this and the other ideas about the curriculum and teacher retention won't nearly be enough to reverse the class carnage caused by a decade and a half of meager budget settlements. Nor will it fill a gap. I'm sorry. I'm trying to, like, focus on the words, and I'm just, like, so powerfully thrown off by someone saying that his project of oracy was fucking noble. Like... There are quicker ways to suck someone off. I'm just, like, fucking talking about oracy it's a noble idea to help working class kids communicate better. Because, you know, the problem is, working class kids, they're basically like the fucking Morlocks. They're basically like little fucking gremlin people. And the problem is that they just don't know how to speak good.
You know what's so fucking grim about it is, it's just exactly the same as when Michael Gove was doing this whole big thing promoting kids learning classics in schools. Because his idea was
well, he was experiencing a causal fallacy. He said everyone who is successful knows Latin.
Yes.
Therefore, to be successful, you need to learn Latin. Yes.
So that you can go to Oxbridge, that you can have a job like he does.
Everyone I know talks really well.
Yeah. The way you make working class...
People are always commenting to me, Keir, it's really important to sound like a real person who is confident and speaks well. And I just value how much everyone I know cares about sounding like a normal person.
Their social mobility tactics
I come into a room and I start saying, we have to do something about these children. And they say to me, talk like a normal person. And I think, yes, that's what the children need. They need to talk like a normal person. And I say, thank you. And they say, talk like a normal person. And I say, that's okay, I heard you the first time. Sorry.
It's just...
I'm sorry, I'm just obsessed with this idea that he wants to teach kids to talk good. It's fucking ridiculous.
Can I have a strawberry?
You can have the last strawberry. If you finish telling me what you're saying.
That they want to act like they are giving working class kids a helping hand up by encouraging them to imitate the superficial trappings of upper class people.
Yes.
As if that's gonna help their circumstances in any way.
Same causal fallacy again.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. Okay. Starmer talking to people with northern accents. I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do to help you. Jesus Christ. The idea of oracy, of helping working class kids to communicate and get on, was noble. I just got nothing, you know? It's just, like, to see someone heap praise on such a flagrantly stupid idea, it's just fucking wild. It's also, just like...
Starmer at this point must surely have expelled more young working class people from the Labour Party than ever in the Labour Party's history.
So if he cares about the social mobility of young people...
Of them speaking up for themselves politically...
He cares about the social mobility of this egg. Any young person who's willing to declare themselves a big fan of neoliberalism and hip to the radical new enterprise scheme. Oracy is a noble idea. I just you know how this makes me feel? It makes me feel like this goddamn stuffed tiger. I just want it to end, man. Fucking hell. Fucking hell. Not again. Fuck. Hey, Starmer. Leave those kids alone. Oh, the idea of oracy was noble. Just, like, write Starmer a little note, okay? Slip it under his office door. It's got to say, Dalston Superstore bathrooms, you and me, 11 p.m. You don't have to publish your desire to suck him off in the New Statesman. You can keep it private, which I'm sure he would be a fan of. Okay. Okay. It is also revealing that it won't cost much money. The truth is, this and the other ideas about the curriculum and teacher retention won't be nearly enough to reverse the class carnage caused by a decade and a half of meager budget settlements. Meager budget settlements is a hell of a way to describe, like, the Tories willfully slashing to ribbons with austerity any kind of public programs in the UK. Nor will it fill a gap between private and state school funding per pupil that has widened into a gulf. When asked about the money, Starmer compared the Tories' record and that of the last Labour government. It's now possible to see these 13 years and the last 13 years of a Labour government. Bear in mind and hold in your mind... The worst bit is, like, transcripts of him speaking. Like, the words are bad. Like, the words he's saying are bad. They're bad words, and he puts them in a bad order that's hard to understand. And he says he's gonna teach kids to speak good. It's now possible to see these 13 years and the last 13 years of a Labour government. Bear in mind and hold in your mind just what the last Labour government did on education. Fuck you. Fuck off. But you can't tackle a problem by repute and ignore an obvious fact. New Labour spent money, a lot of money. During its time in office, education spending doubled. Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, hammered home this wider parsimony at the weekend when she said that an incoming Labour government would match Tory tax and spending plans. This was written up as yet another example of Team Starmer mirroring New Labour, which promised the same in 1997. In its political effect, that may be true, but they're not doing it for the same reasons. Oh, well, that's so different then. They're not doing it for the same reasons. It doesn't matter if it does the same thing. Jesus fucking Christ. Alright. Everyone, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. I'm having such a time. You can subscribe or cheer, or please donate directly using command tip. I would really appreciate that. I need money to live. Starmer and his team have no hope of being able to mirror the macroeconomic circumstances of that period. New Labour could stick to Tory spending pledges, safe in the knowledge that the economy was growing. Starmer's Labour might have to do so precisely because it is not. And so, assuming that Starmer won't be able to emulate New Labour's fiscal largesse, what is his alternative? This, I fear, is where the limitations emerge. In a sense, the essay question for the Labour Party during its long period in the wilderness since 2010 has been the same. How do you do social democracy in straitened times? Each faction has had a go at answering the question and failed. Ed Miliband half accepted the question. Corbyn rejected it entirely. Both had a luxury Starmer does not: low interest rates and low inflation, which meant that, if they'd wished to, they could blur the lines and take a risk. A Starmer government won't have that option. Remarkably, perhaps, after 13 years, it feels like there has been little thinking about that main question, and few profound answers that have stuck. What does a Labour version of public service reform look like with the spending taps stuck? Starmer may not have to answer the question now. He can win without doing so, but he will have to do so in government. He may take the New Labour path to victory, but he will not be able to take the New Labour path in government. The history of Labour Prime Ministers governing when the cake is shrinking is not encouraging. That makes deep strategic thinking all the more urgent. If Starmer can't plot something of his own, it will quickly be revealed that his plan is not so different to Sunak's plan, hoping that something just turns up. And that's the end of the article. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, so here's the thing, right? All these New Statesman articles, it's just so much fucking waffle, and then the last 2 paragraphs is the same point they're making in the headline, and then it doesn't go anywhere from there. And it's just, I am actually used to reading, like, essays, like well-written essays by essayists, and this is just so deeply, like, disappointing doesn't begin to touch on it, honestly, because, like, disappointing would, yeah, I don't know, like, what words would I use to describe it? It's just paint by numbers essay writing. It's tragic to me. It just sucks. It just sucks. Class, what was the purpose of that article? What were they trying to do? What were they trying to achieve in what they were saying? Please tell me. This is the real testing time for how much people have been getting from the liberal slop streams. High word count. Filling space, waste our time. Get paid for like 500 words. They are trying to give liberals brainworms. Okay, I will reread you the title of the article, and I think that might help. In fact, I'll reread you the title and I'll put it on screen. What's the point of Labour when there's less money to spend? Try not to get distracted by this image. Challenge level impossible. I encourage the New Statesman to suck off Keir Starmer. Yeah, absolutely. I encourage them to go even further and swallow. Man's lurking outside the door like a Five Nights at Freddy robot. They are trying to justify Labour doing austerity. legitimize austerity. What we can do is limited by how much money capital allows us to spend. They're trying to paint Starmer as some form of social good, even though all he will bring is austerity politics, the exact same thing we've already got. Saying don't expect things to get better. They want the left to fully become part of the right so it becomes undefeatable. Anyone fighting this to look like an extremist. Nothing you can do, end of history, only capitalism. Yeah. All good answers, all good answers. The first one was from One Happy Chipmunk and said, they were trying to legitimize Keir's bullshit and paint him as the hero of working class kids. Yes, I think, of all those answers, I probably like One Happy Chipmunk's best. Although I also really like... Who was it who said... end of history, only capitalism. Who was that? Vaudrella said, I think it's basically saying there's nothing you can do, end of history, only capitalism. Yeah, I also like that answer. There is no alternative, right? This is an exercise in capitalist realism to the absolute max. They are telling us that there is just less money to spend. The author spends an immense amount of time telling us how much Starmer definitely actually cares about working class kids. Oracy is a noble policy. They're trying so hard in all these various ways. But there's just no money to spend. The challenge of labor leaders before was to try and how do you try to institute a social democracy when the economy do bad? Ah, shucks, that's such a tricky question. The fundamental underpinning thing here is when you're talking about economic reorganization, when you're talking about redistribution of wealth, when you're talking about the way that the country actually runs being different, the idea that there's less money to spend becomes a very different one, right? If for example, one of the first things that you're doing is you're raising taxes on the richer and you're raising taxes on corporations, yes, some big corporations will leave. Oh well, bye-bye. Right? But like, if you're talking about social democracy as opposed to an actual like socialist revolution, the idea of big companies leaving isn't firstly isn't going to be like the be all and end all. They're not all just going to flee, and secondly, like, isn't actually such a totalizing threat, because it will leave a vacuum for lots more businesses to spring up. And if you've got your heightened corporation tax, a lot of those businesses are going to do really, really well, because they're going to have to spend their money on things that will improve the business and not just put it directly into the pockets of the executive class of the business. Right? Because that's what high corporation tax does. Britain once had a near like 90% corporation tax, and it was fantastic for economic growth. Right? Again, economies are methods of organizing ecologies, and if the fucking economy, the nature of the economy were to be radically changed, it wouldn't it's like, yes, a social democracy puts more money into public programs. Yes, that is because its priorities have changed and it cares more about just giving people stuff, but also like those people are able to do more things, and this generally generates more in return. People are able to do more with what they are given, and all government budgets run on debt anyway. Like, all government budgets run on lending. Like, they're not actually, like, we have this conception that it's all taxes, right? And that you'd have to raise taxes if you want to spend more. And this is one of the two key lies, right? That keeps people thinking they're being really smart economists when they're picking between the Tories and Labour. The one is there's this much to spend and it depends on how good economy do, and the other is that that amount comes from your taxes. So if there's going to be more, it can only be because taxes go up, and that's just not true. Governments get the money directly from loans, right? This is why the International Monetary Fund must be destroyed. This is why the IMF has had so much power. Is because governments, in order to implement public programs, take money off of financial institutions and then supposedly give it back. Taxes is not actually how governments pay for public programs. Anyway, yes, it is all there. The purpose of this article is all there to legitimize austerity. I'm going to change the track here. How's this sound? Yeah, that's a bit better. Yes, it is to legitimize austerity. It is to legitimize Labour being exactly the same as the Tories, and as Vaudrella was saying, it's setting up an idea of no alternative. There's only capitalism. Labour will be exactly the same as the Tories if they get in when the economy is bad. The Tories will be a little bit more like Labour if they get in when the economy is good. Only that's just not even true. Making people think in these terms is completely in line with a really good observation by Everybody Drink, David Graeber, pointed out that Stalinism as a mode of governance didn't go away. It became the normal mode of governance. It's just that the immortal economic science that dictates how everything is run isn't Marxism-Leninism, it's free market neoliberalism. Right? So the economy is good. So there's, the economy is good. Stock market bankers are making more money. Therefore, it follows that the government will have more money to spend on public programs. The economy is bad. Stock market traders are making less money. Therefore, it follows that the government won't be able to spend as much on public programs, so it's austerity time. The working class will be punished. The working class are going to have to tighten their belts until the stock market traders start making more money again, right? This as a mode of governance is, as Graeber was pointing out, right, incredibly similar to Stalinism. There is actually a ruling executive class, and there is a working class, and rather than it being like the aristocracy of the rule of kings, it's a supposedly scientific modernist justification. We know what to do. We are making all the decisions in the right way. We're not even making decisions. They are dictated to us by a science. It's all science, so you don't even have to trust us. Just trust the science. Yeah, that's the purpose of the article. So I'm glad class was up to on the same page as me. That's good. Any questions? Unity M says, anything productive corporations do, even if others could do it better, come from what they spend, not from their profits. So taxes on corporate profits are just taxes on the money they're taking out of the economy, so they're motivated to budget in ways less harmful to everyone else. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 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 Tiefling Kisser says, at Small Cute Frog, thank you so much for the, thank you for the gifted sub. So I'm guessing that the gift sub did go through in some way at some point. I still haven't seen it pop up in the Streamlabs or anything, but congrats, Small Cute sub, Small Cute fucking hell, Small Cute Frog. It has shown up, I guess. Can we have more head pats? That's not a legitimate question. Everyone can have more head pats if donators ask for more head pats. It says it came through 2 hours ago on my end. Okay, so the gifted sub did go through. I checked my bank account for a while. Took a while for it to suck over the money. Please head pat me. Thank you for gifting a sub to Tiefling Kisser. That was very good of you. Does the economy allow for more head pats? No, the economy is really bad right now. Stonks are all down. Line is going down. Unless the economy is fixed, no one will get any more head pats. That's just how it works. Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. It's just not in the budget, honestly. I wish that it was, but it's just not. The money's just not there for there to be more head pats. Sorry, everyone. I definitely would head pat you all if I could. But, you know, look at this. I'm trying to lift my arm to do it. There's no money. So it's just not happening. And that's because of the left, primarily. You know, if I had to pin it on one group of people, I'd say the left. But if I was going to say two groups of people, I'd say the left. And I'd say transgenders. Two groups of people, they're asking for too much. And that's what's draining all the money out of the economy of my arm. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty messed up, I know. So consider donating if you want to help fix the economy. Okay. We have a very, very silly article up next. We're going to have a read through. It's called Greedflation, which some of you may already be familiar with from Mildred Thought Slime's video about greedflation. Greedflation, according to The Economist here, is a nonsense idea. So that's cool. Hey Zelda just tipped £13 and said, wishing you energy for your next V4 or higher. Oh, thanks Zelda. That's really nice of you. That's really lovely. I actually did try a V3-V4 yesterday, and it went okay. I didn't make that much progress on it, but I did like being able to attempt it even felt like a huge step, and that was pretty cool. The IMF literally put out an article on it. The nonsense idea, even the IMF recognized Lamau. Good job, The Economist. Yeah, seriously, it's pretty fucking wild. And this again is a place where like The Economist not publishing their authors' names, not letting us know who wrote this and where the fuck they live, is like harmful to The Economist's like reputation as like a fucking any kind of credible publication whatsoever, which, you know, they shouldn't be taken seriously as any kind of credible publication whatsoever, but they're just reconfirming that for us by publishing things such as greedflation is a nonsense idea, which, like, if they put the author's name on this piece, they could say Lewis Goodall is the author of the last one, you know. Lewis Goodall said in our magazine that greedflation is a nonsense idea. Instead, The Economist has said that greedflation is a nonsense idea. Yeah, I'm just going to open up what Vordrella has linked here, which is from the IMF blog. Important note, the IMF must be destroyed and is evil. But yeah, it's just important to note that even the very evil must be destroyed IMF has talked about how corporate greed has driven inflation, basically. But they reference it in this article, so we'll see it in a second here. Ooh. Okay. Remember, everyone, if you're enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using Command Tip. I would appreciate it. Okay, inflation is high and the search is on for the culprit. The latest in the frame in Europe is profiteering businesses. The idea that greedy companies were to blame has taken a knock in America, where corporate profits are falling even as consumer prices continue to rise too fast. But that has not stopped the notion taking hold across the Atlantic. The IMF has found that higher profits account for almost half the increase in the Eurozone's inflation, and Christine Lagarde, the president of the European Central Bank, has at times seemed sympathetic to the argument. In Britain, the government has asked regulators to look for evidence of the price gouging. On July 3rd, the competition watchdog added fuel to the fire with a finding that supermarkets had increased their margins on petrol between 2019 and 2022. The greedflation thesis is in part a reaction against another common explanation for inflation, that it is driven by fast-growing wages. Oh, we're back here again. The problem is we're paying workers too much. Central bankers live in fear of wage price spirals. Last year, Andrew Bailey, governor of the Bank of England, asked workers to think and reflect before asking for pay rises. The remark was incendiary because that's a horrible thing to say, you ghoulish fucking cunt. The idea was incendiary because the inflation that has troubled the rich world since 2021 has largely left workers worse off. Wages have not driven prices up, but lagged behind them. Yet, to argue that companies must therefore be to... Nat's been doing a pretty good job, by the way, of tuning out the stream most of the way through. She's been, like, focusing on her video. She's, like, when she came over, that was voluntary, but, like, she's been otherwise very, like, on it, focusing on what she's doing. This one, it's, they're just saying that greedflation doesn't exist. The Economist
is evaporating from my body.
The Economist wants us to believe that greedflation, it doesn't exist.
Just think.
It's a nonsense idea.
Won't someone think of the wealthy bankers? Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
Is this a fucking joke?
No. This is the Economist, not the Onion.
That has troubled the rich world.
Has
largely left workers worse off.
Yet to argue that companies must therefore be to blame is to confuse cause and effect.
Haha, fuck you!
In America, the profit margins of non-financial corporations surged after vast fiscal stimulus during the pandemic, which amounted to more than 25% of GDP and included 3 rounds of checks sent directly to most households.
Yes, and where did they go? Where did they go after the households received that money? Where did it go? It went straight to landlords. It went straight to Walgreens.
Yep.
It went straight to fucking...
Health insurance.
This is...
Petrol companies. Hey, why are you building that guillotine? Oh, jeez. The infusion of cash into the economy, which the Federal Reserve chose not to offset with higher interest rates, set off a consumer spending boom that overwhelmed the world's COVID-strained supply chains, disrupting other economies. With too much cash chasing too few goods, it was inevitable that companies would make more money. Then, after Russia invaded Ukraine, companies producing energy or food also found themselves selling into a shortage. Their prices and profits shot up.
Yeah, so you need to redistribute somehow by paying people more to balance it out. They're describing an imbalance that would be balanced by paying more wages. Is what they are describing.
Yeah.
But they're saying it like it's supposed to be the opposite of that.
Well, The Economist lives in an opposite world because, again, they're trying to constantly use the confounding power of economics to convince us that things are, like, infinitely more complex than they need to be.
Also, they're saying this to contradict the idea that it's the greed of companies that's caused all this inflation. But they're literally just describing
the mechanisms through which the greed of companies has caused this inflation.
Yeah, like, of course the companies were going to charge more if they could. Like, obviously, that doesn't make it their fault.
I've just received a tip that's rather large that says in all caps, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." And I can't tell if they're telling me to not reference the tip or if they... But I assume they're referring to the article. So, thank you very much, Leon DeBauer, for tipping £100 and saying, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain."
They're referencing Keir Starmer in that doorway. Make him no mind, children.
Pay no attention to the man in the doorway. Pay no attention to the politician behind the curtain. Oh, Christ. What a dreadful image. What a deeply fucking dreadful image. Thank you so much again, Leon. And let me just quickly add, for the VOD watchers, for the stream enjoyers, for all the slop heads everywhere who enjoy every time that Leon comes onto the stream and makes a big donation. Leon! There we go. Some VOD watchers were very excited about that last time. I got someone saying that they did the Leon impression, the Ashley impression of her saying Leon the exact same time that I did. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, Sir Keith Starmer, Knight of the Realm, KC. Oh, God. He is, among other things, quite bad to see.
Yeah.
Just quite bad to see. It was a Wizard of Oz reference, but that's just... I mean, I get the Wizard of Oz reference. I just don't... You know what? He was knighted? Why was he knighted? Because he was on the Crown Prosecution Service. He was knighted for deporting immigrants because they shoplifted an ice cream. That sounds like a made-up example that I am humorously exaggerating for comic effect. But what you don't know is that that's literally a thing he did. Deported a teenager for shoplifting an ice cream. Back to the article, I think. Time for more of this article, which we're all enjoying so much. Europe's economy has not overheated as quickly or to the same extent as the Americas, but the Eurozone, thank you so much, a blustery day for tipping £3. I forgot to get myself a little treat grocery shopping, so this is for you. Oh my goodness. A blustery day, that's so nice of you. I love treats. And I really appreciate that you were a fellow treat enjoyer, and that, you know, seeing that you'd failed to get yourself a treat, you just passed on the exactly enough money for a little treat to me. That's extremely nice. That's just... I'm genuinely so moved. Does everyone here know the riddle of the gloves? Right? The guy's on the train and it starts to pull away, and just as it starts to pull away, he realizes that he's left one glove on the platform. So what does he do? He throws his other glove out the window so that whoever finds the glove can have both. You know, I just feel like I've experienced that in real time right now. That's just really lovely. Okay. Europe's economy has not overheated as quickly or to the same extent as America's, but the Eurozone has recently spent 3.3% of GDP subsidizing energy bills, and its interest rates are still too low given the underlying rate of inflation. Hang on a second. Just hold on a second here. So, what we've got are these enormous corporations who control the energy sector, a natural monopoly which would be better served being publicly owned. Thank you so much, Kira, for raiding in. Oh my goodness. Hey, Kira. Hey, everyone from Kira's chat. I am doing a liberal slop stream. If you don't know me already, I'm Sophie. I do Red Planet every Sunday, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. UK time with Kira, as well as DJ Mule and Conquest of Dread. It's a weekly commie roundtable show where we talk to activists and organizers about what they do, how they do it, and how you can do it as well. This stream is... I don't want to call it more theoretical. It's not exactly theoretical. We read through liberal slop, and we talk about the purpose of it. We talk about why it's been written, what it's trying to do, what it's trying to convince people of. Oh, you should all appreciate my outfit, actually, since you've just arrived here. This is an important moment for everyone. Tip this up a little bit. Check this out. Seeing this? You all seeing this? This is gonna be my fit to go to the Barbie screening. How good is that? Huh? It's my dyke Barbie fit. Alright, I'm back. yeah, it's a liberal slop stream. We're doing some liberal slop. If you like the sound of any of the following, go back and watch the VOD. We read through Slavoj Zizek's article about why the left needs to embrace law and order. We read Megan McArdle's article about why raising the minimum wage is causing more homelessness. We read an article about an article that's really there to manufacture consent for the Labour Party in the UK to come in and do just as much austerity, if not more, than the Tories, which featured this headline image. Yes. For some reason, this was the image they thought would be good. That's the one they went with. That's all I can say about that. There you go. And now we are reading, in The Economist, greedflation is a nonsense idea. So I will start the article over again, since there are so many raiders. But raiders, since I am starting the article over again, just for you, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer, or I'd really prefer it if you donated directly using command tip. Thank you so much, raiders. Welcome to the chat. We will now carry on doing liberal slop. If you enjoy the stream, if you're enjoying the liberal slop, if you're enjoying my cute outfit, if you enjoy what we have to say about it, if you enjoy just being a part of the class, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command tip. Okay. Also, one last thing before we go into it. Kira likes to be a very sexy and cool dictator. What she says goes, and I completely support her in that. I love to see a girl boss winning. I have no complaints. I run the liberal slop streams, I like to think, a little more like a classroom, okay? It's good to ask questions. I like to discuss them all through. I like people to be on the same page. So please do chat about what we're talking about. Do ask me questions. That's okay. If you get tips, you might get head pats. Jenny is correct about that. If you tip, I might give the whole chat a little pat on the head. Maybe, if you're good. Okay. We're going back up to the start of the article. Oh, sorry. Thasmadar, thank you so much for tipping £5. If you pay for the stream, you can get head pats. Also, one, please. Thank you, Thasmadar. That was so good of you. Everyone enjoy this head pat because of Thasmadar. Okay. Now we're going to read, greedflation is a nonsense idea. Inflation is the result of economic policy mistakes and war, not corporate avarice. Now, we're immediately in the byline, in the subheading of the article, immediately encountering bizarre liberal bullshit, right? Because we're immediately getting, it's the result of economic policy mistakes and war, and not corporate avarice. Firstly, these two things and this thing are not mutually exclusive. It can be the result of all three. Secondly, The Economist constantly tries to use the confounding power of economics as a science to convince us that everything about economics is fantastically, infinitesimally complicated, and we, mere mortals, couldn't possibly hope to understand all of it. And yet, also, that it is a science, and therefore there are exactly correct policies to implement based on the science of economics. And it's just interesting whenever they see something going wrong and then try to explain the economic policy mistakes that have been made, considering how it's a science. And in science, you should be able to follow rules. And you shouldn't have these kind of mistakes. That's what I'm getting at. Okay. Greedflation is a nonsense idea. Inflation is high and the living is easy. Inflation is high and the search is on for the culprit. The latest in the frame in Europe is profiteering businesses. The idea that greedy companies were to blame has taken a knock in America, where corporate profits are falling even as consumer prices continue to rise too fast. But that has not stopped the notion taking hold across the Atlantic. The IMF, must be destroyed, has found that higher profits account for almost half the increase in the Eurozone's inflation, and Christine Lagarde, the president of the European Central Bank, has at times seemed sympathetic to the argument. In Britain, the government has asked regulators to look for evidence of price gouging. On July 3rd, the competition watchdog added fuel to the fire with a finding that supermarkets had increased their margins on petrol between 2019 and 2022. See, again here, we've already been over this, but I just want to say again, like, The Economist is trying to go against the IMF here. Trying to go against the IMF and the president of the European Central Bank. It's an incredibly, like, bold statement for them to try to claim that they have, like, some kind of scientific, objective reason to disagree with these huge and very powerful institutions, you know? Greedflation doesn't exist, and here are the reasons why it does, in fact, exist. Yeah, the competition watchdog added fuel to the fire with the finding that supermarkets had increased their margins on petrol between 2019 and 2022. Yeah, the Tesco... This sounds asinine to begin with, but in economics this is extremely worthwhile. The Tesco meal deal has gone from £3 over the last few years, £3 to £5. It's nearly doubled, right? And that's a demonstration of buying power shifting, right? Like, what before would have cost us £3, a packet of crisps, a sandwich, a bottle of Coca-Cola, right? Now costs £5. And if, now, there is an across-the-board shift there. Like, you can see other supermarkets besides Tesco, their meal deals also rising in price. But, like, this isn't just interest rates going up. Greedflation is a very, very real phenomenon. Because, like, if all the competition has created this kind of patchwork monopoly between them, between all of them, they know they are the only options for people to, say, get their groceries, right? They know that they can all raise their prices together and all squeeze the consumer, right? This is like... It's entirely possible for them to pull this off, and it's entirely possible that they are, because, like, as much as the inflation is wild right now, their standard deal for getting you a sandwich, a snack, and a drink nearly doubling in price is just, like, that's too fucking much. There has to be a margin increase in there as well. And again, yeah, they've increased their margins on petrol, so why not? Once again, repeating, Lenin's remark that the Economist just exists to, shill for the ultra wealthy, and it's its primary raison d'etre. Right. The greedflation thesis is in part a reaction against another common explanation for inflation, that it is driven by fast-growing wages. Central bankers live in fear of wage price spirals. Last year, Andrew Bailey, governor of the Bank of England, asked the workers to think and reflect before asking for pay rises. To think and reflect before asking for pay rises. Jesus fucking Christ.
Also, now that they're asking for raises, this is what I was thinking about the other day. Now that they're asking for raises, they're being entreated by bankers and economists to think of the collective good when they're making their decisions for themselves.
Yeah.
Not think about their own pocket, their own family, food in their own mouths, but to think about the collective, the economy, the nation.
Yeah. I think it was also Bank of England, so it probably was also Andrew Bailey. But someone, again, I'm pretty sure it was Andrew Bailey, said that, like, the people in Britain just need to get used to the idea Britain is a poor country. And again, like, in the context of this, greedflation, this discussion, this idea that, like, this idea of shit is generally getting worse because the 1% are generally just taking a bigger and bigger slice of the pie, it's entirely fucking true. It's just observably fucking true, because, like, there's this idea we can't raise taxes on the ultra-wealthy because they'll just take their business to different countries. It's like, well, firstly, every country could raise their taxes. Since that's exactly the same fucking thing all, like, health insurance providers and supermarkets and petrol pumps do, is just work together to fucking price fix and, like, squeeze every last red cent out. But secondly, like, you're immediately ceding this power to the ruling class, to the ultra wealthy and the ruling class. You're just saying no, we can never ask for more money back off them. Yes, we can never ever do that. Ever. No. Greedflation isn't even real. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about that. They'll get angry. People who are new to the liberal slop stream, I like to point out whenever we do an Economist article that The Economist, unlike other liberal slop publications we will discuss, does not credit its authors. Why does it do that? Is it a cruel publication that hates to give people exposure, or does it just pay them really, really well? Well, the latter's probably true. But, no. The Economist wants to maintain a veneer of authority and objectivity. So they don't credit their authors because they want everything they publish to simply come from The Economist. So again, when I say The Economist is taking this stance against the IMF and the European Central Bank, this is genuinely kind of a big deal. Like, The Economist is saying The Economist disagrees. Not just, someone in The Economist writing an article. The remark was incendiary because the inflation that has troubled the rich world since 2021 has largely left workers worse off. Wages have not driven prices up but lagged behind them. The remark was incendiary because the inflation that has troubled the rich world has largely left workers worse off. Well, okay, if the working class are worse off, then why are you first discussing that inflation as a problem for the rich? If it literally is worse for the workers. Fuck you. Fuck off. God damn. Yet to argue that companies must therefore be to blame is to confuse cause and effect. In America, the profit margins of non-financial corporations surged after vast fiscal stimulus during the pandemic, which amounted to more than 25% of GDP and included 3 rounds of checks sent directly to most households. The infusion of cash into the economy, which the Federal Reserve chose not to offset with higher interest rates, set off a consumer spending boom that overwhelmed the world's COVID-strained supply chains, disrupting other economies. With too much cash chasing too few goods, it was inevitable that companies would make more money. Then, after Russia invaded Ukraine, companies producing energy or food also found themselves selling into a shortage. Their prices and profits shot up. So, they're explaining that profits have shot up, that corporations are making loads of money, that there is a bunch of inflation, but the one has in no way caused the other. Greedflation is a nonsense idea. I'm just seeing this tweet that Nats replied to from this bigot who said, I would be like 10 times more tolerant of the LGBT ideology if there are any happy gay people out there, like deep, joyous, 50-plus years long content with life through and through. Firstly, I'm extremely happy on every day that I don't encounter someone like this fucking dipshit. I am so fucking happy when I am just around other transgenders. I am so happy all the fucking time, except when I see a guy like this. Earlier this week, I had a really bad experience. I was talking about it at the start of the stream. I had experienced a violent hate crime. Someone fucking blew up at me, yelled at me in the street, got really close to physically attacking me, yelled at me for 10 minutes. The guy he was with was sexually harassing me, being really creepy. I'm not happy when I'm encountering cis people that way, and I'm not happy when I'm encountering cis people a lot of the time in general, because some of them will be like that. You know who I know won't be like that? Trans people. You're not seeing happy gay people, my guy, because they're not happy when they're around you, a bigot. Okay, that's enough time being distracted. We've got to get through this fucking article. Europe's economy has not overheated as quickly or to the same extent as America's, but the Eurozone has recently spent 3.3% of GDP subsidizing energy bills, and its interest rates are still too low given the underlying rate of inflation. Here again, we see the limitations in imagining that UBI will meaningfully solve anything, because they're trying to solve a problem there by giving subsidies to the companies who own all the energy infrastructure in Europe. A bunch of that money is going into the profits of those companies. If that energy infrastructure were publicly owned and operated, there would be no profits that needed to be subsidized. Instead, you're just setting up this absurd, like, money funnel where it comes into the government and then it shoots out into the corporations. Just like, honestly, like, this subsidization this way, like, giving people the money so they can not be in fuel poverty. It's like, how many fucking times over will the government subsidize energy companies rather than nationalizing them? Absolutely baffling. Today it is displaying familiar symptoms: high core inflation, high profits and wages that are surging in a tight labor market. It seems likely that the profit margins there will also follow America's downwards. Analysts expect the profits of listed companies to decline this year. Because people have less money to spend on stuff. That doesn't mean greedflation isn't real. Inflation caused by corporate profits isn't real because corporate profits go down after the working class have been squeezed dry of every last penny they have. Incredible article. Thank you, The Economist. Thank you so much, The Economist, for your deeply scientific look at economics, definitely a real science. Fucking hell. Fucking hell. Okay. Okay. Regardless, the fact that companies raise their prices in response to shortages is not only defensible, but desirable. Oh. Sometimes, for those who are new to the Liberal Slop stream, sometimes on the Liberal Slop stream, I gotta try to not get really mad. Just really fucking mad. Regardless, the fact that companies raise their prices in response to shortages is not only defensible, but desirable. The alternative to letting the price mechanism bring supply and demand into line is to rely on something worse, such as rationing or queues. They just said that queuing... They just said that queuing here, what they've just said here in The Economist is that queuing for stuff, what they've just said here is that being in a queue, standing in line, what they've just said, what they've just said here in The Economist here is that queuing, standing in a queue, queuing for stuff, that's worse than inflation, and so we should actively desire companies raising their prices when there's a shortage, because the alternative is queuing. People not being able to afford essentials to live is preferable to
wait
queuing
to get those essentials that they otherwise simply wouldn't have at all. Preferable for who? Presumably for the people who don't have to worry about it, who can afford it either way.
Okay. Though there may be examples of opportunistic or anti-competitive behavior, the effects are unlikely to have been material. What an incredible thing to put in The Economist. Wow, economics is definitely a real science. Okay, British supermarkets increased their profits by 6p on a litre of petrol, which today costs £1.46, but they did so at a time when the peak rate of annual fuel inflation was 129%. Properly measured economy-wide profit margins have not surged in Britain. Oh... Ms. Lagarde has said that it would be desirable for profit margins in the Eurozone to fall. She is right, such a decline would be disinflationary and would restore workers' share of the economic pie. But that does not mean that a crackdown on corporate greed is needed. Instead, monetary and fiscal policymakers need to continue to correct the error of excessive stimulus by raising interest rates and tightening fiscal policy. The right lesson to draw from the past 2 years is not that companies have got greedier, but that workers suffer when policymakers let inflation run out of control. All the more reason, in short, to care about price stability in the first place. Whew. Woo.
So,
yeah.
Fuck all of that.
Yeah.
But also, isn't it hilarious that they go, Ms. Lagarde has said that it would be desirable for profit margins in the Eurozone to fall.
Yeah.
She is right. Have they not dedicated a whole bunch of this article to saying, no, there are no profit margins, and it wouldn't be desirable for them to fall?
Utterly baffling.
And then to say, but also, if they were to fall, which could be good, actually, ignore the rest of the stuff that we just said. If they were to fall, you shouldn't do it this way. You should do it by... still letting the wealthiest get away with whatever the fuck they want.
This is nightmarish. Okay, everyone, if you've been enjoying the stream, please consider paying for the stream. You can subscribe or cheer or donate directly using command tip. I would appreciate any donations last minute that anybody has. I'm just checking if there are any more articles I wanted to look at today. The Economist wrote one about Britain's doctors are on strike again. Is their trade union the country's most powerful? I don't think I... No, I don't think I'm going to look at that right now. I might have a look at it on the next Liberal Slop stream. For now, I'm going to leave it alone. We are going to raid into my friend's Fremily. If you have been enjoying the stream and want to support the stream, want to support my work in general, you can check me out at patreon.com/Sophie from Mars, all one word. I would really appreciate it. If anyone here is in London, there is an emergency protest to free Sarah Jane Baker at Westminster Magistrates Court tomorrow at 10 a.m. Please, can you pass on that message from me to Fremily when you go into their chat, since they are London-based and have some London-based audience. Emergency protest to free Sarah Jane Baker at Westminster Magistrates Court from 10 a.m. tomorrow. Cool. I will see you all on the next one. Have a great time, and if you want to support me in the meantime, you can check out my Linktree, linktree.ee/Sophie from Mars, or my Patreon, patreon.com/Sophie from Mars. Thank you so much. Hope you all have a great night. Bye.
Have you seen the Sarah